here we go. We'll give it a second. We'll get our other friends in here. Hey guys, give it a second. Work through all our technologies and whatnot. What's happening?
What's going on, brother?
The man of the hour.
Half hour. Never the full.
The man of the 23 minutes or whatever that crazy time you put up today, right?
23-minute 5K. Yeah, probably a little too fast.
I don't. Yeah, whatever. I can barely drive 5K in 23 minutes.
That's true. Then we literally got in the car right afterwards and drove like 5.2 miles to dinner, I want to say, and it took like 41 minutes. So that was great. I literally could have actually ran there. So
That's hilarious.
It's a good word. What's up with you? How's your week been?
Not too bad. It's been spring break here, so.
Right. I did know that actually.
Yeah, so my wife and son are actually up in Knoxville with Famo. I got video of them at Topgolf today, so that's always entertaining.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're doing that. Otherwise, been a pretty standard week. Just me and daughter here at home. So we're planning on going to the High Museum and doing some other stuff tomorrow. So taking advantage of the wonderful city in which we live.
You guys getting good weather there? It's like
actually, it was a little warm today.
Yeah.
So it was low 70s.
Yeah.
What up, Nate? But tomorrow it's supposed to get. No, it was in the 80s today. It's supposed to be in the low 70s tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Nate does indeed make my week anything but standard. Hang on. Let's see. We can get Melissa in. We'll see if I know they were still getting set up. So
seemed like they had their own situation on their hands.
Or a urgent case of trivia to be played before we. Oh, Nate says it's all good with his customer situation. So in our leather chat group, there was, we go through lots of topics on here, but in our chat group, Nate had somebody that was, had bought a wallet at one of his markets, which we'll get into markets here in a little bit, but
yep.
Back at the holidays, and 5 months later showed up and said, oh, well, I finally got a chance to give it to the person I bought it for, and they don't like it, so they want to return it.
Tough cookies.
Yeah, so we went through all that stuff.
Just you imagine? That'd be great.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'll stay and we'll get you on next week. We've got Melissa coming in, so I don't know if we can add you this week, but I'll delay it. But it brings up, point about returns, and I know at least for me personally, I kind of have the most of my leather stuff is based on commission. So somebody's asked me to make it in the first place. So it's not something that I just kind of build and spec out and maybe somebody buys it, whatever. So for the leather side, it's almost always commissioned, so that I don't really have a return issue because you paid me up front.
Right.
Building.
You kind of knew what you were getting yourself into. Yeah.
Yeah, but for like the rings and metalwork side, I sell that stuff in a shop on Etsy and whatnot. So I've kind of put a no returns policy. Like, unless you have reached out to me in advance and said, hey, I'm worried about sizing. Hey, I'm worried about this other thing. And then I'll be as flexible as I possibly, can be about it. But for the most part, it's like once you buy something, at least for the way that I do it, you set the build process in motion, right? So there is no backing out of it. There is no, once I cut material, you're out money and time and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there is no, you get it and go, well, it's not really this, that, or the other thing, right? So it's a pretty, especially for like sizing there for a while. Hang on, looks like Corter's on, so let's grab
I'm
him.
curious, Nate. How did you handle it? I know you can only respond via message, but I'm curious before we maybe dive into
It's gonna be a face.
deeper,
Yeah,
deeper
they are.
conversation.
Oh, I'm getting it.
I wonder how that went.
Hi.
So we got
Hey, you guys.
Melissa and Eric's hand. Awesome.
How yellow do you want to be?
How yellow?
That yellow?
That's like, yeah, that's nice.
Is that mood?
Yeah, we're just working on lighting.
Hold on. I can turn it down too.
Yeah, turn it down. It don't look so old.
Is that good?
Perfect.
Turn on the strobes if you got them.
Right, I'm gonna be real disappointed if Eric's shop doesn't have a disco ball at some point.
Yeah. Where's
Let's
the disco
go to
ball?
Marquee.
There you go. That's so cool.
Hi. Sorry we're late.
No worries.
Yeah.
Trivia though. 3 weeks in a row.
We'll be here for a little bit, I think.
Can they hear us?
Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So what are we talking about?
We were talking about return policy.
Okay.
And Nate of B Frank Leather had a situation where somebody bought a wallet and then 5 months later wanted to exchange it.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
right, I mean, so Nate does a lot of holiday markets, so somebody bought it like in October, November, whatever, and then 5 months later gave it as a gift, and the person took the gift and went, oh yeah, this kind of sucks, I don't want it, can I trade it for the shot? But it just wasn't what I thought, or the person was like, oh, I want a more simple wallet, can I swap it? So I don't know how he resolved it. We were actually gonna let him speak to it, but
Okay.
it just brings up I think the point where if you're going to sell stuff, you really need to have a return policy laid out. So what will you take in return? What won't you take?
Was it a custom item or was it just an in-stock item?
It was at a market, so already made.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's a paid like done deal. So
At a market, I always do final sale.
what's
I said
that?
at a market, I just always do final sale.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
cash and carry. Once you leave with it, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean,
5 months is obnoxious. Like that's fucking ridiculous. That's too long.
I had one situation at a market where just an indecisive person like bought something and then came back and just switched it out for something, which I was totally cool with. But
Okay.
I mean I think that's fine. Same design, same cost, and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I've had people that have like reached out and said, whatever, given their 2 cents, but I don't think I've ever really dealt with anything like that. So maybe I'm just lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I've done, on like rings and stuff that I make where people go, oh, I ordered the wrong size. Cool. It's just as much work for me to resize it as it was to make it in the first place. So my kind of, concession point is cool. I will give you a discount on the replacement. That kind of softens it a little bit of saying, no, I'm not going to take it back. Like if the ring's too small, too big, whatever. That being said, I've got a ring sizer and I can size it up or down a little bit. But for the most part, it's, unless you've reached out to me before and I've worked with you on sizing and all this stuff to kind of get it all set up, then once it's yours, it's yours.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. And then you're like covered for materials too, right? At least, because it's not your fault that they ordered the wrong size. I think that's a very fair concession.
Okay, so yeah, Nate's saying his website has a pretty clear 30-day policy and referenced it and was like, look, my policy's 30 days. Like I could even stretch it up to 90, but it's just not. Even after that point, you just don't feel comfortable taking it back. I mean, and from just the business perspective, which we talk about a bit, is once you have made that wallet, the material's gone, your time's gone, your labor's gone, all that stuff is done. Like you've already gotten the money, you're on past it. So yeah, there you go. So
yeah, that sounds more
empathetic
than
can
fair.
offer a 25% discount on something else. So, which is, fair, and you don't even really have to do that. But,
Yeah.
It was also, for him, it was an in-person market thing. So it's someone local to him. So for me, that's, I can see that if it's a local, maybe it's a little bit different situation. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably more than generous, more than fair, in my opinion. I mean, I like the idea of, I'm curious as to what kind of shape I guess it came back into, because I think the nature of what we do is unique, right? So are you going to be able to then turn around and resell that wallet, knowing that?
Well, I think it's even, so since we have Eric, I mean, I know, Eric, you even recycle stock in the warehouse, right? So if something hits a certain point in time, you're swapping it out for a fresher piece, right?
Yeah, we have I don't have a return. We don't do any returns. I'll do an exchange. But if I ship it to someone and they open it and close it and ship it back, then I can't sell it as new again. Yep. So it's very clear on the site. If you spend $30, you have $30 in credit. You can do whatever you want with it. But because I can't resell it, then I'll exchange it. I'll do whatever you want, but I won't. You're not getting your money back. And I don't mean that in any negative, derogatory way. It's just when you're excited to support a handmade maker, you also have to understand the details that come with buying a handmade piece isn't the same. Like you can't, when you go to J. Crew and buy a wallet, that wallet doesn't immediately get marked the minute you touch it. You can take that wallet back and you can resell it, or you can put it in a discount store. You can do whatever. That's what we do with our grab bags a lot. But as far as brand new pieces are concerned, if I get someone that says, "Listen, I bought a bifold. It's not quite what I want." I'm like, "Cool. I'll exchange it for you, and you have $98 in whatever, in
store credit."
But because I can't resell it, and I've spent the time making it, sewing it, finishing it, and I'm getting a product back that I'm going to lose $100 on. You either have to be on the, in my opinion, and feel free to disagree with me on this, but you have to be on the I'm buying a handmade product wagon, or I'm not.
Yeah.
It's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're talking like multi-$1,000 pair of boots and something's wrong, then of course go, have it fixed. And even with stuff that I make, if I forget to set a rivet or forget to nile it, let me know and I'll send you a new one. And, it happens. We're 1 and 2 people making stuff, but we've always had a no cash return. It's always exchange only.
Yeah. Which is fair. I mean, because it's out the door. And I mean, and you brought up a really interesting point with some of the materials that we use. If the second you take a Natty Veg wallet and you hold it with the oils on your fingers,
right,
it's then no longer in new condition. And if you leave it on the table for 2 months, it's gonna have fingerprints from where somebody touched it with their bare hands.
Or sunburn.
Sorry, what?
I said, or like a sunburn.
It'll get
Yeah.
whatever. I always tell customers, I say, well, how would, if you ordered a wallet off my website and you got something that had in natural veg, let's say, you got a piece that was very obviously been shipped, opened, looked at, put in a pocket, sat down on, taken out, put back in a pocket, and shipped back. Natural veg skin is going to show all of that. And you got that new piece. How would you feel? And then the response is usually understanding. Okay, I understand you can't sell this again.
Yeah.
Because I'm not forcing anyone to buy wallets. I'm not. It is what it is. You have to click the yes to the terms and the conditions to check out. All the terms are there. All the materials. My website is 10 years old. I've never touched. I've uploaded different products, but our terms. We have an about section that very clearly explains the nature of the leather we use, the process we go through to make it, and why it's just not an item that can be resold as new once it's literally shipped out the door. Because the minute it leaves the door and goes into, even if it's in a box, the minute it's jangling around in a box, it's going to pick up patina, and I can't sell it as new. I can't morally sell that as new to someone else if someone doesn't like it.
Yeah. So Devin's asking, is the consensus to stick with your policy? I think the answer was yes. So whatever you set your return policy to be, with it.
You can't waver on that, no, because all it takes is one post somewhere saying, well, they let me return it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're just spiral down, and you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or more to the point, you just don't want to have to deal with that as a business owner or whatever, right? I mean,
yeah, and I think people, that's the thing that people don't understand, is that the term "the customer is always right" is not the full term.
right.
The customer is always right doesn't mean the customer is always right when they ask for a return. It means the customer is always right in the sense that they're going to guide the market. So if you make something and it doesn't sell, then the customer is right, because they're just not going to buy it. The customer isn't always right when they don't like your return policy that you've set and you've made them click in it and agree to, and then they have decided that they don't agree with it after they've purchased from you. That's not what the customer is always right means.
Yeah, and I think it's, in a world where we have the Amazons and the Costcos and all that other stuff, where they will take almost anything back for any reason. People make that kind of mental shortcut, thinking that when you're dealing with someone who's hand making, custom making stuff, that they might have a similar return policy, and it's just not it.
Right. They also have to, and that's the thing. I think it's getting more,
What are you doing, Tyler?
Yeah, bud.
Oh, sorry. I just threw something on the garbage. My fault. Sorry.
I'm like, Tyler's out. He's done with this conversation.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
So let's pivot for a second and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, when the owner of your company is launching rockets into space, like for fun, obviously they can afford to take returns.
Exactly.
And I also remind people when they come up with that, well, I can return it, this and the other thing. You also won't find that product back on a Walmart shelf or on an Amazon shelf. You'll go buy an auction box filled with returns, and that's how they make up for their losses. So
Oh yeah, and I mean, citing some other store's return policy, it's like, look around. Are you standing wherever the fuck you just said? No, you're not.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's cool. Don't talk to me about a Costco return policy when you're not standing in actual Costco, because that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
I
think for me the biggest thing is the nature of the material we use, right? You can't both respect the nature of the material and disrespect how it has to be handled at the same time.
Right.
If you want a wallet that ages in patinas and stuff, you have to understand that because it's changing all the time, it's going to be changing the minute it leaves the door.
Yeah.
You have to understand the full circle of life of that piece that you're buying, and you can't, when it's inconvenient to you, forget the part where the person who made you the wallet or the business or whatever is just taking a total loss because you don't like a color or whatever. I do think that you should offer exchanges. I don't think it should be like a final sale. If someone doesn't like something, then that's it thing. I think exchanges are fine, but then you have to have some sort of ways of business, which is why we do our grab bags, where if someone wants to exchange something, I can take a wallet that really is brand new, but it's just not, off ice. I'm not taking it off ice to send it to you, and you can get it for a very discounted rate. And that gives other people opportunity. Then you make your product more accessible. It's just, you're able to get your product into the hands of people who might not be able to afford it at full price or even a 30% discount, but they're able to afford it in a randomized sense. With the grab bag, it's get what you get, but they're still able to access it. Yeah. So you're opening up your brand to a lower price range than you might be comfortable with, but you're still covering your costs, and you're allowing people to get pieces that you made in their hands without, they might not be able to afford a full price piece. Yeah. So I think you have to have at least an exchange policy, but I think it's totally fair to have a no return policy just because of the just because of the materials.
Yeah.
That's my kind of been my thing forever, really.
Makes sense. To pivot us for a second, you guys have some stuff cooking for the Boston Marathon, right?
Yep.
So Tyler, why don't you tell us how you're So for those that have been watching us for a little bit, Tyler has been training and preparing to head up to Boston and run the Boston Marathon, and you have been raising money for the Boston Public Library Fund, right?
That's correct. I take off, we leave next Friday. So yeah, we're like on the final stages of preparation, a couple more runs in obviously the next, week or so, get acclimated once we get there. But, good news is, again, for anyone who's, popped on the last probably 2 weeks, I want to say, I hit the goal that I needed to hit. So,
Hey,
that's that's been the most stressful part. It's been raising the money to just get to the starting line, I guess. The running stuff is I don't want to say easy at this point, but the easier of the two, I guess. So so we're there, we're home. Appreciate all the help and positivity, good vibes, I guess, if you will, over the last couple of weeks. It's gone a long way. I know Melissa's been super helpful. What you guys are working on, I'm excited to see. I'll let you guys talk about that if you want. Chuck's been super helpful. Anyone else? I know Shane's on here. Shane's been super helpful. Made a couple of donations. So yeah, everything's good, smooth sailing from here. Hopefully no sickness, no injury over the course of next week, and go out there and run the damn thing, and get back to all this great stuff or whatever, not having to, be so focused on that, I guess.
Cool. So yeah, Melissa and Eric, what you guys got cooking related?
I have I have a wallet that is going to be, the tutorial video and pattern will come out Saturday, and I believe we're going to get Tyler out of the dark ages into the uploading PDFs to his website pages. And so I have a pattern. It'll be on his website for the first week.
Yep.
And also it'll go to him.
Yeah. No, so that's and just a kind of quick update on that too, because I know there's a bunch of people here and definitely some new faces. What I've decided to do since I've hit my goal, selfishly, is I am going to take any of the money that is raised from this, or that people buy this PDF, and I'm actually going to use it to help out some of the other people that I'm running with. So I think we have a team of 17 people right now. I want to say 10 of us have hit the goal that they basically established for us. If I'm being blunt, and there's some people who have a ways to go, and probably could need as much help as possible trying to get there. So anything that is purchased or whatever, I'm just going to turn around and kind of spread the love to the 2 or 3 people that probably need it most, and see what we can do. And I doubt they're, I think Chuck, you said it best. Like I doubt they're expecting one of their own teammates who's also raising money to donate to them. And who knows if they'll even, recognize that or whatever. I'll throw my name on it. I have no idea if they know who I am, but, it'll go a long way in helping those guys kind of get to the same goal that, I was trying to accomplish and I'm fortunate enough to have gotten to. So
cool.
All good stuff and appreciated. And be on the lookout for that probably in the next, couple of days. And I will say the cutoff for donations, I want to say, is next Friday. So whatever I have up until next Friday will just be donated at the last minute possible, so that we can get as much money possible to help these people out.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm going to explain it in the video too. One person that buys the pattern is going to get a half piece of the 15th anniversary shell. I'm going to just pick it at random.
That's worth it in and of itself. Such a cool thing. I think I saw some of when I was visiting you last year, I saw some of the test shells that you had done with Ricardo.
Yeah, that was a long process.
But such a cool material, such a cool process. It's kind of I guess folks who've been following you for a while kind of know the deal and everything else, but it's a really neat and unique piece of leather that really is not going to be, it's unobtainium, right? So it's not going to be there again.
Yeah, I kept a few pieces, but we did a small run, and I kind of I didn't invent the process. I mean, I worked with Ricardo, but the idea was mine. I sent all the inspiration. We worked on brush strokes and how to do all the stuff. We worked. It was like 9 or 10 samples. Going between Andrea, using Andrea as a translator, trying to figure out what to do, and the process can be repeated with different colors, but not all colors. And so we haven't even thought about it. I mean, I think everyone involved is just kind of taking a breather from it because it was kind of a weird, it was a weird project because there was like 3 countries. Where is Andrea? Not in Italy. Okay, so there's like 3 countries involved in time zones, and like we all have there's an American tie-dye, Denmark. Okay, yeah. So it was a lot of moving parts, and so I'm not. I would love to see it released more widely. It's just right now, kind of had a deal, and it's just what's in my shop is what exists basically. So,
which is super cool. So somebody in the comments asked, when is this going to go live?
This Saturday, day after tomorrow. I don't know what time yet. I can't make any promises on that, but this Saturday, and then it's just the same thing we were doing for all the folks in Ukraine. It's the easiest way possible. The pattern will be $5 on Tyler's website. That's it. And then whenever the deadline is over for you, it'll just migrate to my website. That's the only difference between the Ukraine one and this one. But that's the cutoff for being entered and we'll just randomly generate one person, and we'll grab your address and send you a half a piece of shell. I'll make sure there's a stamp on it, and you'll be the only one but me that was able to make anything out of it. I felt like I didn't like the idea of sending a pre-made good. I want someone to have the chance to work with it. So I'll pick a good piece and cut a half shell, and so that's the plan. That's the plan, at least, and hopefully we can get the rest of his team filled out so they can all run.
Yeah, and I'll make sure over once we announce it and whatnot, I'll make sure it's obviously all over Instagram as much as possible. Now, God knows if anyone's going to see it, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, we can make sure people will see it.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of the extension of what we've talked about before, the real community over competition, right? So in a lot of different ways, where Tyler already met his goal, so we were talking through it and said,
Right, yeah.
well, what if we help somebody else? Instead of getting Tyler to 12K or 15K or whatever else, however much we get out of this, why don't we help somebody else on the team? Because as we were talking through it, this fundraising stuff is hard. It's a lot of work to raise money. I mean, it's a lot of work to do it. It's a lot of work in administration. It's a lot of work all the way around. So, I think, Tyler, you were mentioning just the fundraising part's really difficult. It's almost harder than the running part. So then we pivoted to, well, if somebody else is having a hard time, how can we help them? So,
yeah, and it's I have the interesting, this will be my third marathon where I've ran with a team and fundraised, I guess, and the way that, a lot of these things work is, certain of these races are, cheaper to get into, or, less fundraising goals, I guess, than other ones, Boston being probably, the most prestigious or whatever. So they kind of got you by the balls, if I can say that, which I will.
Well, you just did.
you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I mean, they set the goal for $8,500, and I was fortunate enough to get there. When I didn't know if I ever was going to. I mean, there's definitely periods where, like a month ago when I had, $6,000 raised and I needed another $2,500. I was like, well, this is going to be one hell of an expensive race for me to run, because I'm going to have to, foot, $2,500 just to get there and whatnot. But, there's other people that are in the same boat. And, what I've told everyone is I'm fortunate enough where, we have this platform and we, a certain skill set or whatever to, make things and be able to sell them. So this started way back for me, around the holiday times, which, it's probably the busiest time of the year for me as far as sales and whatnot goes. And like any money that, I took in over the holidays, I can confidently say, I just completely put into my fundraising goal. So,
Yeah.
that certainly helped. But, a lot of other people, I'm assuming probably almost everyone else that I'm running with, doesn't have that ability. So, they're going to mom and dad and, cousins and in-laws and, so on and so forth as many times as humanly possible, bugging people. And,
Yeah.
I tried to not do that as much as possible. So I tried to get creative by, number one, using HFA, number two, like I had some shirts made up and, got kind of, a little bit funky with it or whatever, so that I didn't have to, go to my father-in-law 12 times and say, hey, I'm $6,000 away, can you,
Don't think I'm not
donate
wearing
to this
that shirt next Thursday. I'll have on my boxing shirt
next Monday.
I'll wear both days.
Yeah. So anyways, long story short is, I'm grateful that, obviously we have this good community, but also, I have the ability to make things that some people, kind of want to buy. So that's helped out a ton. And I've probably, helped myself out a lot by, not having to just go the old, email or text message or, so on and so forth. So it's been an interesting journey. I think this has definitely been the hardest for me, just because it's simply the most amount of money, but, people who, it really puts into perspective, like the people who raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, or, the person who, raises 50K for, breast cancer awareness or something like that. It's just like, it's mind blowing. And I've gone down some serious rabbit holes of like looking into those people and figuring out what they do and learning, and trying to like mimic some of the stuff that they do. But it's like, it's a lot of hard work, and it's almost like a full-time job. And I have a lot of respect for nonprofits coming out of this thing, in general, because, that's what these people are doing nonstop, for their livelihood. So, that's the gist of it. We'll get that out to everyone. And
like that at that level of fundraising, like the 50 to 100K, like that's throwing like big parties and galas and shit, right?
And if I'm just being real candid, like I don't have an inner circle or even like a 6 degrees of separation kind of situation where someone's throwing me $1,000. You get $8,000 donations and you're done. You get a $20 donation or a $25 donation. I'm ecstatic about it. It moves the needle for sure, but obviously it's going to take a lot more of those $25 donations than the $1,000 donation. I think we talked about it last week. I couldn't even. It was tough for me to go to like coworkers because I found out that our company doesn't company match, for a massive company, so you can imagine, some of these companies who, match up to $500 or something. Like someone donates $500, you get $1,000 and you're ecstatic. So I was like, I'm not even going to reach out to my coworkers because, I just don't believe, like, I can't believe what our company's doing, so, it's been a good battle, but, I've learned a lot. And, moral of the story is just fucking be a faster runner, so you don't have to raise money and just qualify so that you can, pay the entrance fee of $200 and be done with it. So there you go. There's my TED talk.
Nailed it.
Oh, wait. So if you don't meet some sort of cutoff, the only way to get in the Boston Marathon is to basically fundraise your way in.
Yeah. So that's what makes Boston like, kind of prestigious, if you will. It's like, they are historically, like, I'm pretty sure one of the only marathons, if not the only marathon, that has like a very strict kind of policy on qualifying time. So like you'll see a lot of people like that just honestly are excited about like making a qualifying time for Boston. So like for me, for example, like for my age group and for males, you have to run a sub 3-hour marathon, which I'm just not there yet. It's not totally out of the cards, but like I got to shave off 30 minutes from my best time that I've ever done. So I'm just not there right now. And then basically every 5 years you get 5 minutes. So like when I turn 35, I get 3 hours and 5 minutes. And then at 40, you get 3 hours and 10 minutes. So like right now, the only way for me to qualify for Boston is to be like 55 years old. And obviously that's just not, that's just not how this thing works, So, but yeah, so otherwise, like you're only like, and I'm sure there's, probably some like, I don't know, some backdoor kind of things or whatever, but anyone who doesn't qualify is essentially running as part of like a nonprofit or a charity has a dollar amount attached to it, right? And I'm pretty sure like 95% of the charities, at least that I looked at when I, explored and did some research or whatever way back when, like 6 months ago, pretty much all of them are like in the $8,000 to $10,000 range. Like I know, for example, Tom Brady has a foundation, and I think his minimum fundraising goal is like 10 grand, for whatever it is, but I think they do set a minimum, and then the charities can kind of, dictate it how they want. And, certain charities do a better job of like, packaging, what you get on top of that, I guess, if that makes sense. Like you're raising a lot of money for their nonprofit. Some charities, will host like a big dinner on Friday night, or they'll hook you up with a bunch of gear, or they'll give you like a personal trainer, so on and so forth, which, definitely incentivizes you a little bit. Even though you're like, at the end of the day, you're like, well, I'm raising a lot of money for your company, or for your foundation. Can you get me a tank top that fits? Can you get me more than 2 stickers? But again, like, I'm not bitter. I feel good about what I did. But yeah,
I'm kind of personally looking forward to seeing you running that tiny tank top.
You won't see me running the tank top, because I asked specifically when they said that that's what we were getting, if you had to wear them, because some of the foundations, like it's mandatory that you wear, the gear that they give you. And I was like, well, let's take a step back here. Like you guys are like, what you're providing the runners is a tank top. It's April in Boston. Like it could be 35. Like I don't care. Like I'm running this thing like the way that I want to run it, and give me a tank top, it's just not going to work. And then I got the tank top, and it's just like single ply. And honestly, like it would be worse than probably the worst penny that you've seen your son get chucked for like a lacrosse practice. Like it's a single ply reversible, or not even reversible, single ply penny. That is, I think I ordered a medium, and it probably fits like an XL. I put it on, and like almost went down to my kneecaps. So I don't even have that. Like I got 2 stickers out of the deal, which is fine. Like I feel great about what I did, but as far as like showcasing their foundation, like I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Very cool. And while we've been chatting, somebody asked, Eric, are there going to be any opportunities to buy extra chances at the shell?
No.
Gotta buy pattern.
Yeah.
Gotta buy a pattern. The other few I kept are I keep an archive of stuff, and so they're staying in the archive. We've hit.
Don't tell people you have extra. Eric, this is the last half that will ever exist on the face of the planet. You don't have anything.
Huh?
This is the last half that will ever exist. It will never exist again. It's super special, and everybody needs to buy like 8 patterns.
If you're not me, that's very true.
I guess in theory, if you wanted extra chances, then you buy more patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to get into. I mean, it's going to a good cause. Technically, it's not gambling. So as many copies of this pattern as you want would be an entry to win this half piece of shell. But I also don't want to oversell this. I mean, it's a cool shell, but it's just a half piece of shell. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm not one of those people. I'm not a fetishist when it comes to materials like that. I guess you would say, like, it's still just shell cordovan that we made a cool pattern out of, and it looks cool and
I'll
together.
Chime in, because I think if you can either look at this 2 ways. Like if you're in it for the shell, then that's fine, and I'll gladly take $5 and donate it to someone else. If you really are in it for helping out, I guess, whatever, we can figure out a way, or you can leave a note at the checkout or something, or whatever. And I'll gladly, I mean, it's not going to get you extra chances to win the shell, but I'm happy to, obviously put that money to good use. So I don't know if that answers the question or makes it more.
Yeah, I think that's a much better. I think that's a much better option. Is look at it as, if you want to buy 10 patterns, you're donating $50 to Tyler, more than you're getting entries to win this piece of shell.
Yeah, it's gonna, and and it's going to result in one singular entry when I send over Eric the the list or spreadsheet of people who have purchased stuff before. Like the name's going to be down there one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, just from a math perspective, like buying multiple entries is not going to significantly increase your chances anyway.
Nope.
So.
the roulette wheel spins once. And that's it. Resets. That's about it.
When are we going to see the how-to video on how to build a leather roulette wheel?
That is not in my wheelhouse, I don't think. Not anytime soon.
But you can build it out of shell.
True. I made pens stand up the
You
other
could build
day.
it out of shell and make it 2 inches thick. It would be awesome.
That would be. I feel like that's like one of those videos you'd see where like someone would like cast a bunch of shell scrap in resin and then turn it into like a pepper grinder or something on a lathe.
Oh my God! So I'm sure.
Like a handle or like a shell. I've been waiting for someone to do a shell stacked handle for a mall. No one's done that yet.
I mean, it's. I mean, that wouldn't be all that difficult. I don't think. If somebody really wants, the problem is shell like compresses so easily. Like you would have to versus like a regular veg can or whatever. You'd have to put it under a decent amount of pressure just to make that stack right.
Yeah,
Totally.
That's true. But I don't think I'm going to be going with anything mechanical out of leather anytime soon. I kind of keep it. I made a pen stand up 2 weeks ago, and I was pretty pleased with myself that way. So
Those were neat.
Yeah, those were cool.
That was I take no credit. Pinterest kept shoving that picture down my throat, and I was like, fine, I'll make a video about it. You want to learn how to make a curvy? That's it. Fine, I'll make the video. I took it as a divine sign of you got to use a can of Static Guard and sew it into a pen holder. But honestly, I mean, it's a cool project. It looked cool. It just, we're just having fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the, I mean, it's always been really neat to me that you use kind of normal things to make stuff, right?
Yeah.
So no special jigs or any of the rest of that stuff. It's maybe one of the cool, I don't want to say the coolest, but one of the ones that sticks in my memory for sure is I'm going to make this wallet with a fork and a nail. Which was pretty neat.
Yeah, well, that one was, I think a lot of people, my thing is accessibility, right? So, like, I think especially in today, I didn't come up in a world where people, again, fetishize tools so much. It's like, that didn't exist. You went to Tandy and you bought a 5-prong stitching chisel for $8, and unless you had a Connect to get Blanchards or something like that, that's what you used. And, it's great that we have access to all these tools. I'm not saying it's not. But when you become more, it's like, if you want to collect knives, that's fucking rad. Go for it, right? But, like, it's the difference between someone who has a knife to fillet a fish and someone who has a Pelican case full of knives,
Right.
So, like, that's kind of always been my thing. Like, and, if you don't have to have a lot of money to do all this stuff, you don't have to have a lot of tools to do this stuff. You can use a can and a couple of paint sticks and something really cool for you or somebody else, or accessibility accessibility to knowledge is my main thing. That's it. And so sometimes I'll use web molds. Sometimes I'll use shell. Sometimes I'll use $300 stitching chisels. I'm not above that. It's just I'll show you how to do it with a fork and a knife.
Yeah.
So, and people like one up me on it. They were like, oh, you use that? Well, watch me do more things with the fork and less things with the thing with the Sharpie that was more expensive. So, which I think is great. I mean, it was super fun, So
yeah,
that was a fun one. But I always prioritize I don't want to take over y'all's live that you do, but it's important to me that as we grew it's like when you are in a job and you start making more money and your lifestyle inflation, right? You get a better car, you get a nicer house, you get this, you get that. And I notice with a lot of YouTubers, it just becomes unrelatable because you connect with a woodworker who's doing stuff from a one-car garage because you have a one-car garage. And now all of a sudden they have, a 4,000 square foot barn that's lit with LEDs and all these fancy tools. And you're like, I mean, I want to watch your stuff, but I'm never going to be able to replicate it, and I don't connect with you as much anymore because that's never going to be me. And for me, it's a personal decision because I don't want those things. I don't want big tools. I don't want a leather splitter. I don't want, nothing against lasers, but I don't want a laser. I don't want any of that stuff. I want to use hand tools. I want to order my leather in the weight that it comes in, wherever I need to get it. And I think a lot of people are like that. And so that's why I just kind of keep my videos the way they are, because it's the way I prefer to work. Yeah. So, that's my TED Talk.
Yeah, and I think, and I think you when you see people that are using really expensive tools, or this thing or that thing, or this super expensive, hot foil, press, or this really expensive clicker press, it can also trap people into thinking they need those things to do it.
Yeah.
And or putting themselves in an irresponsible amount of debt to buy expensive machines when they don't really need it.
For the record, is any amount of debt. I have never had any debt with Corter. $37 I spent on my first piece of leather, a Tandy stitching iron, and a roll of thread, and a couple of needles. That's it. I guarantee you can still buy those tools for that price and use things you have at home. Yeah. And then you sell that one for double, and then you buy twice as much. You sell those two and make 4. You sell those and make 8. And then when you're ready, maybe you have a clicker die made. Maybe you buy a clicker die. Maybe you buy a clicker press. I am a very big, the only reason I'm able to do what I'm able to do is because I stayed debt free. That's it. I didn't ever. I had to take one loan out because we got an order of bottle hooks for. I don't know if you remember Birchbox, but Birchbox was like,
oh yeah,
they hit us up and they were like, hey, we want to put bottle hooks in Birchbox, and those things are usually advertising things, so you give it to them for free. And I was like, cool, we're a 2-person company. We can't just give you $60,000 worth of product, because 99.9% of the time, that is never going to. There's no ROI on it. It's a negative. And for most,
it's never going to convert to a full price sale.
Yeah, for a lot of companies, all they're looking for is name recognition.
Right.
And unless you want a wallet, you're getting the only product that I made that is even in remotely the realm of that bottle opener. Yeah. So we took one out. We took one loan out to fill that because they actually paid us. We made a profit on the Birchbox sale, so I took a loan out to cover the casting fee. But besides that, no loans. I've never. There's nothing wrong if you need to take out a small business loan or whatever, but you better be sure as hell that you proved your market before you're doing it. In my opinion.
Well, and have the business plan for paying it off. So that's, if you're going to do that, you better have a pretty certain plan for your ROI. And if I do this, what's the time, or if you're going to make 100 things with that loan, cool. How long is it going to take you to sell all that stuff? And how long are you going to carry that debt for? And, all that stuff, right? So it's not, you don't sit there and go, wow, if only I had, blank. If only I had this one thing, I could make this other thing, right? If only I had a cylinder arm sewing machine, I could make blank. Right. Try and make it without it first. Don't think that tool is going to stand it, because all of leatherwork can be done with hand tools. Machines can make your life easier, faster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you can do it all by hand. So cool, do it by hand. And then figure out if doing it by hand is a big enough of a pain in the ass that you need a machine for it. And then you have to budget for all that stuff.
And I
treat it like a business.
The by hand part is kind of like, if you look at modern music, you get a lot of kids that are just picked up off the internet and they're playing their first show after they're already signed to a record label.
Right.
And doing it by hand is, touring locally, building a local support. You know what I mean? It's you want the experience of doing it by hand. You don't want going straight to all the big tools, because you lose the opportunity to know what leather can do, to know how it handles in a very tactile way that you're just never going to learn if you go straight to die cuts or straight to, the not laser, but the Cricut or the the machine cut ones that you can hire people out to cut out the pieces. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when you're just coming up, the thing you're going to learn most when you're at the bench making mistakes, because then you learn more from that than anything else. I'm trying not to sound like a freaking Tony Robbins book here, but like, you know, you learn more from your mistakes than your successes. And if you buy a machine that makes success 90% possible, you're going to have no idea how to do anything if you need to expand or pivot or whatever.
Yeah, and I would almost argue that doing things by hand will give you a better perspective and enable you to use the tool more effectively should you choose to pursue that later.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, things like yields, things like parts of the hide to use, places to place things, how to design an entire multi-piece pattern and make it fit in 1 square foot, right? So that you have T-pockets locking into each other, you know, that kind of thing. Yes, there are programs that'll do it for you now, but I think it's important to learn to do it by hand first, to cut the paper out, put it on the piece of leather, move it around like that car game they always had at the doctor's office until all the cars apart, and then, you know, really learn how to do it manually. And it could be like modern tattooing where, you know, coil machines are going out and the electric sex toy machines are coming in. You know, I could be an old fogey and I was wrong about it. But I think as far as like 2D, 3D spatial relationships design is concerned, doing everything by hand first is absolutely the way to go.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you learn how it all works, how stuff fits together. It's just a better deal all the way around.
Right.
And I think that's where, yeah, Sean from Maverick is bringing up. Yeah, I mean, go to the tool when you need the time back. I know you've talked about it before, Eric, where it's when you're losing money doing it by hand, then maybe it's time to think about a machine. But going to get the machine first isn't gonna, you know, if you don't have a market for 100 pieces, the machine is probably not a good investment of your capital.
No.
So.
They're stitching straps all the time. Fuck stitching straps. So hard.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I've decided that there is probably, you could not talk me into one specific appropriate time to hand stitch a bag strap. You couldn't talk me into it. I do it all the time. I've never machine sewn a bag strap, and the chat can go wild with it. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's just not, it's a huge expense, and it's a luxurious expense, and it's beautiful. Like, they're absolutely gorgeous. I make them, but God damn, do I want a machine so I can sew straps quicker. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm not, for those of you new to this, I kind of swear like a sailor and say wildly inappropriate things all the time when I'm not on camera. It's very different when you're playing the algorithm. So
the good news for you is that's what we do every Thursday anyway. Last week we talked about if there was an appropriate market to sell to people that wanted pictures of your feet along with your wallet. So we don't really have a lot of boundaries around here.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true.
This week's been game so far, though.
Yeah, I know. So kind of and it's not even closely related, but somebody this week reached out to me around and wanted my opinion on basically, you know, some IP theft stuff where it was, we talked about it a little bit last week and somebody said, oh, who was that you were talking about? Who was that you were talking about? And I'm like, we're not really going to do that. But it's probably an appropriate topic to get into if, you know, you've made something and then it pops up and you see about, you see somebody else has done it and it looks pretty goddamn close to what you did. How do you handle that?
Like,
Is that a question to me?
For anybody. I mean,
I can give you the legal thing because I've beat Budweiser, Coors, Miller Lite, everyone in court.
oh yeah, with the bottle hook, I remember that.
And we actually found my patterns on Alibaba today in clicker dyes.
Oh yeah.
And Melissa showed me. She goes, "Hey, someone sent me these," and she says, "Do you want to do anything about it?" I'm like, "No, not really." I mean, that's the thing is like it's been you have to remember that there's like Yeah, you can go buy that clicker die. I can guarantee you it's not going to turn out.
Oh, holy shit! For the baguette bag, look at that.
And look, it's my tooling.
Yeah, they just took my picture and.
Oh fuck! It's with the van.
Yeah. Motherfuckers.
But I can tell you, looking at the pieces, it's not the right. I made the pattern. Well, Kaylina made the pattern, but I programmed the pattern, and I did the zipper top. It's not going to work. So you can spend $50 on it, but it's not going to make what you think it's going to make.
No.
And I also only use dies with stitching holes in them, and if it costs $50, a full set for a wallet, it's $8 to hold to have them welded. They're $5,000 sets.
Oh
of
no,
dies.
that's with no holes.
Oh no! What is with punches though?
Oh, $59.
Yeah, $59. I mean, go for it, man. You know, if you want to mess around and try and order that kind of stuff, that's fine.
They look like that.
Yeah, I mean,
you might get a couple out of it. I don't know. I mean,
Oh, those would all rip right in.
yeah, they're like a weird French style.
They're just like little weenie teeth glued into wood.
Yeah.
So your first piece, you're just gonna pull them all out.
Right.
I'm a big believer in building brand identity. And
Right.
once you've done that, you don't have to really worry about IP theft, and unless you have a case like the bottle hook where it is a product that you need to patent, right? But other than that, if the big guys can't do it, you're never going to be able to do it. Like, there's always going to be rip-off Hermes stuff. And I'm not talking like Canal Street, it says Hermes. There's always going to be people making bags that look like Hermes that are, it's totally legal. There's always going to be people, there's always going to be people making Dior's hottest thing that walked down the runway that's slightly changed because there's no way to protect that.
Right.
They've been trying hundreds of years. And that's why you see branded hardware. That's why you see special closures. It's because they can patent those things to make it, the person walking down the street, you know that it's an authentic piece, but legally, you don't, there's no such thing as a copyright on a wallet pattern. Like, that's not a thing that exists. And if someone puts in listing that it does exist, they're objectively wrong.
Full of shit.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're full of shit, you know, and it's, if you're a small crafter and you have built something that's original, that's your design, and you see someone else has lifted it, it's appropriate to reach out to them and say, hey, look, that's my design. I need you to stop. But that's about as far as you can go unless you're willing to try and take legal action, which, you know, if you're a small guy, it's not worth the money you're getting into it.
People understand that a cease and desist letter costs $1,200 to have a writer to have a lawyer write as well.
Right.
So you better have some real good IP to back that up if you think that a cease and desist is going to do anything.
Well, yeah, because that's the other point of, unless you have, you know, you're supporting IP behind it.
Right.
You get one of those.
Yeah.
And in response, and what's your recourse? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, there's like a website that sells straight up like Hermes, Prada handbag patterns.
Oh yeah.
It's just at leatherpatterns.com or something, and it's like all the big Birkin bags, whatever, and you can buy.
Really?
Well, they also sell knocked off hardware. So that same hardware, they're selling fake, you know, Hermes and LV and all the other. So basically, for every pattern that they sell, they're also selling fraudulent hardware that has the brand on it.
That's the part
Nice.
I don't agree with. If you want to see, to me, if you want to buy a pattern for an Hermes, a Birkin, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see much difference between that, and I have a fine art degree. We sat in the MFA and copied the masters. You know what I mean? I don't see any problem with doing that to learn. It's questionable if you want to make Hermes bags and like sell them to people, and it's illegal if you want to put the Hermes logo on them.
Yeah.
But I think there's absolutely nothing. I actually would love to see this website and get a couple of the patterns.
I'm working on it.
Just, well, I don't need it right now, but like just to see how big houses put bags together, that's a huge learning opportunity.
Oh yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I mean, that's
not like anything negative at all.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I've looked at that site and had the same thought. Like, it would be cool to, and that's sort of like that recent tote bag that I did is a knockoff of a LV keep-all. And it was a fascinating project for me to learn how that duffel was constructed. And I actually got my hands on a real one last week and kind of compared the two, and it's really pretty similar.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot, and I didn't sell it, but you learn a lot through that process about how those kinds of things are made. The steps you have to go through and all that other good stuff, right? And your skill building, and once you do that, you're then able to turn that into, it's collecting Pokemon or whatever the fuck you want to call it, where you're collecting these skills and abilities that you can then turn into something else, right?
Yeah, and I think people need to be less scared of that sort of thing. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person to want to copy a master. It makes you a bad person to want to rip off a master.
Right.
And in master, I'm referring to, the big names that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, well, and the other interesting thing I've seen specifically regarding that form is, Coach makes a knockoff. There's that just kind of rounded top duffel, an overnight bag, is made by most air quotes luxury manufacturers. So it's, because I think that, and I haven't done the research, but LV has had that bag around for forever, like for probably close to 100 years or something. So the IP on it may be gone. I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
No IP. So the reason that Louis Vuitton created the Louis Vuitton print was because that was the only way that they had to protect their product. There's no IP on you can't get an IP on a design like that. You can use social media to reach out and be like, this big brand copied a little brand. I think that's really good when the community gets behind that. I know a lot of fast fashion will just rip artists' graphics and stuff. But the reason that Louis Vuitton created that fabric was because it was the only way they could protect themselves. They created a waterproof. Hey, that's kind of sick. They created a waterproof fabric that had their logo specifically in specific ways, and they constructed it so that they could tell whether it was a fake or a real or not. And then they would go after the people copying. I know because they showed up at my door. Yeah. I had a private investigator from Louis Vuitton show up at my 500 square foot cottage in Eastham, Massachusetts, which you can look it up, is an hour out on the Cape in the middle of February at 7:30 in the morning, because I made a YouTube video where I cut apart one of their bags and made a wallet. And they had someone with a fake Instagram account buy it from me, and they said that the Louis Vuitton fabric was fake. And the problem is that I keep the handles and the serial numbers of all the bags that I buy to cut up.
Right.
So I was able to just shoot them the serial number, and they were like, okay, it was legitimate. And I said, okay, so where do we go from here? And they handed me a big packet of papers and asked me to sign them, and I said wildly inappropriate things because it was 7:30 in the morning, and they left. And Louis Vuitton will go to big brands like Louis Vuitton, and Louis Vuitton will go to Goodwill. They'll go to Salvation Army. They'll buy off Depop. They do not want to be seen as a brand that is sold secondhand.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to see. And once you've been in the belly of that beast, like, it devalues your brand so much to see it on the secondary market, because it's subconsciously telling the consumer that someone might not want your product after using it for a while.
Right.
That's why the big brands do that kind of stuff. Now, that's more the business aspect. If you want to learn how to construct a bag like they do, buy a pattern. Learn how to do it. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything. Like I said, I think it's the same as going to the MFA or going to a museum and copying a master and learning how they did, learning how Caravaggio, lit his painting and changed the painting world. Learning how brushstrokes affected mood of a painting. Like, all of that is similar in how a flap lays on a bag, how a handle is attached to a bag, how a gusset is shaped. All of that's similar. It's all design, and this is three-dimensional, but that's how you learn those things. Now, don't apply them in a commercial way where you're just straight up ripping someone off, because that's a dick move. But it's also an unsustainable move. If you decide to make a business just copying people, it's never going to work long term, ever.
Right. Well, and I've also heard that if you are making say you copy an Hermes bag, the person that buys that Hermes bag understands that it does have residual value. So
yeah,
it's, you buy that Hermes bag, and granted, if you're whatever kind of dumbass that spends $20,000 on a handbag, I guess good for you, whatever. But knowing full well you spent that 20 and you can turn around and possibly even make more or get a large chunk of that back after a year of using it because of, scarcity and, you got to sit in a queue for fucking ever to get one of them or whatever the case may be, right? But for those of us that make handmade stuff, them coming to me and asking for a similar bag, and cool. So that 20 grand bag you would get from Hermes, I charge you $5,000 for it. You know what it's worth secondary? A big fat goose egg. Because nobody knows who I am and they don't want it. Well, I mean, I would like to believe that people would pay me secondhand for it, but it's just not going to happen.
Even if it did, it would be devaluing your brand.
Yeah.
Because it's not, your brand identity goes down the toilet the minute you start just making, even if they're the nicest knockoffs ever, unless you want to be a knockoff company,
right.
Which there are companies that make, look at the watch market. There are plenty of homage companies that make gorgeous copies of Rolex that are going to last just as long as a Rolex will, that look identical to a Rolex. It just doesn't say Rolex on the front.
Right.
And they make fine. And that's been an accepted thing that now the watch world is into, But if you're a single person that wants to express yourself through leathercraft, it's better to learn from the masters and then dive into your own stuff and take the time to really do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, so you can study with the other stuff, but then take those skills and abilities that you've learned by doing that and make your own thing, right?
Yeah.
You can buy a pattern from Corter Leather and Cloth, and you get the Adobe file, and you can do whatever you want to with it after that, right?
Some of you don't. There are a lot of them don't come with the Adobe file because it'll say if it comes with the Illustrator file or not. Some of them are so. I had a problem where some people would like put things in the Illustrator file, tweak it, and then email me, and it would be like 4 hours of emails to like fix what they did. Yeah. And I was like, I just don't have the customers. I try to keep the patterns as cheap as possible. You're getting the pattern for $3. I can't email you for 4 hours about it. I just can't do it.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't come with customer. It doesn't come with support. It's right. The Illustrator file, and knock yourself out. And if you fuck it up, cool, because you have the original Illustrator file. Download it again, do whatever, start over, do whatever you need to. Yeah. But there's not like, hey, Eric, I fucked up this gusset. Please spend 2 hours remotely helping me figure out how to get this gusset right after I fucked it up. Like
you're describing 70% of my customer service. I'm not kidding. Which is fine. I love talking to people, and it's great. But there are a lot of times where I have to look at like an email that has 6 pictures and 5 paragraphs, and put that in a file, and move on to someone who bought a wallet who has an issue or has, their pattern didn't download and they need help with that. I'm not saying I don't try to take care of my customers. It's just I have to prioritize. There's only. I'm fully transparent with it. If you want full, go buy a. If you want full customer service, go find someone who's selling a bifold wallet pattern for $30, and they should email you all the answers you want. But yeah, I've made a full video that walks you through how to make it. So watch the video. That's it. Time, day or night, even when I'm asleep, you get to watch it. That's the best part about the video.
As many times as you want.
Yeah.
I would even argue at a $30 pattern that you got to clip interactions on that. I mean, because again, people don't do it maliciously. They just don't think that it's Eric's or anybody's time is valuable. It has a calculated value to it. Yeah. And asking for 30 minutes of time to walk through something that costs you $5 is not, you're basically forcing that person to lose money that they would be doing something else with their time by doing that, right? I mean, yeah. I'm empathetic and I understand why people do it. And even where I am on Instagram, I try to respond to people. I can't get to everybody all the time, but it's, people will take as much time as you give them, and you can try and be good about it. Yeah, Ryan from Carmine Jack is saying, but I paid you money, right? You paid me $5, And I've had, I mean, at one point I had to do on the customs that I take in, being very clear about the amount of design time I was willing to put in as part of the price of the custom.
Right.
So it's, you get 30 to 60 minutes of design time where we're going to pick out, you know, colors of the leather and thread and talk through some things. But after that, it's either I got to put you on a dollar per hour situation to talk through even more stuff. But if you want to occupy 3 hours of my time talking about a custom, that's cutting into what I'm going to make on that custom. So I have to charge you more, which is fine. Like I'm cool with that. And as long as we have that conversation up front, where it's, okay, we've now gone past the 30 minutes of design time that's been included in the estimate. And if you want more time, we can do that, or else I need to move forward with what we have.
Yeah. It's a little different too, though, because there's like Eric said, he puts out a video, there's instructions when you download it, whatever, yada yada. It's like $5. But I've actually bought like Etsy patterns before where they're close to 20, and the patterns are fucking illegible.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I would argue, and there are some patterns that I bought off Etsy and made that are not beginner patterns. They're not advertised as something that takes more skill, but there's some stuff, and you know, it's just part of going through this, right? You figure out who you can buy a pattern from, and I will, not just because he's on here with us, but Eric's patterns, you buy it, you're going to have a really high chance of success. Is Eric's just, is he just laying down, taking a nap now?
Turn the fire on, it's chilly.
I had to turn the fan on.
Yeah, but so Eric's stuff, you got a really high chance of success of making it like he makes it in the video.
Yeah.
Some of the other patterns that you buy, if you try and just make it based on the instructions that they give you, if you have no further experience, no way in hell you're going to make it.
Right.
Or you'll make it, but it's not going to look like what they made. So that's a deal too, and that's just part of, unfortunately, you got to buy a pattern and try and make it and use up $100 worth of leather before you figure out, oh shit. But you learn, and the next one you try, you're going to have a little bit more success with. Or if they're not clear in a specific area, oh, I know what to do here because I saw that when I was doing blank and blank and blank. I mean, it's just experience, right? I mean, you go through, you get your experience, and then, you know, if you even get a pattern that's 80%. Like I remember one of the things that I learned most with doing this was that, you know, riveted bottom tote bag that you did at one point, Eric. And I remember getting really pissed and frustrated because that was like, you put the video out there, but it wasn't like, there was no information on leather weights, or there was like 4 or 5 pieces of information that were missing, but it was enough of a challenge that you do it anyway and you figure it the fuck out and you come out better on the other side. So even doing stuff like that will make you a better crafter by doing it.
Yeah. And I've gotten better about showing how to do those things too. I mean, we kind of, when we jumped
still, I mean, it
was, you know, it was just like learning leathercraft. It was, how do I film a proper educational video that will leave people with no questions?
Yeah.
And you have,
but even, I would argue even so, there was enough there if you were curious and motivated to still get it done. There wasn't anything that was missing that would have led me to being a failure, right? But anyway, cool, we got that stuff. There've been a couple questions that have come in since we have been chatting. One was somebody asked, hey, what's some advice on moving to production work versus straight custom? I know we've talked about that a little bit before. I don't know. It's having and somebody brought up in the chat a little bit before, you know, having a design that you can do production work on. There's some stuff that, you know, it's, as an individual crafter, certain designs you just can't do production work on. It just doesn't lend itself to it, or not at the price point at which you could sell it, right? I don't know. I mean, Eric, if you've got any advice, but you just got to figure out what you think you could make in quantities versus at the right price versus, you know, doing custom work, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's real hard to make an hourly wage that makes customs worth it in leatherwork, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You got to be the dude making the $10,000 boots that no one really knows about, and you got to know a guy who knows a guy who, you know, you're all in big money circles. It's very difficult to make more than, I don't, working, you know, 3 or 4 years at a company, low end, college, you know, let's say working at a grocery store, right? You work your way up to manager. These days you're making $25, $30 an hour. You have your 401k. You have all those benefits. If you want to make money, do that, right?
Right.
If you, the tool, like I can't speak to tooling because I don't tool. I can speak to the production work, the way that we make our own line and have for 10 years is in a production style because it's the only way that allows me. I mean, I offer a $19 card holder. You know, it makes it. I'm always selling to the 18-year-old kid in a dorm room that was me that couldn't afford a wallet, and so he bought the tools and learned how to make one because I know that most people don't want to do that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, with production, my custom work is like my loss leader, right? And my production work is what fills in everything else.
Yeah.
So the production work makes the money, the patterns make the money. It allows me to make a custom bag where someone might have an $800 budget and I'm spending 40 hours on it, right? So like I'm making less than working at a fast food restaurant, but because I have all my other products and patterns, it allows me to do the thing that I'm very passionate about, which is making a custom bag or a custom whatever. It allows me to give the customer a really smoking deal, but you have to have your eggs in other baskets so that it makes sense to even go through that process of talking to someone for an hour about a custom piece. I mean, you know, if you want to make up in the United States, you have to make $20 or $30 an hour. So having a half-hour conversation with someone without getting paid for it, that's $15. That's a burrito, you know?
Yeah.
Literally.
Absolutely.
In comparison to you could just be working at a grocery store, you know?
Right.
That's objectively, like, and I don't want to be, you know, I'm not anti-craft, obviously. You got to live in the real world, you know? If you want to, especially people in our generation, you have to think about not just making a paycheck, but building wealth. Because it's easy, the more wealth that you build, meaning you move from an apartment to a studio to maybe a small piece of property that you own, as an artisan, that just solidifies your opportunity to keep doing that. Because the deeper you get into that, right? And you have to care about that stuff. And I talk about that a lot, you know, in my stories about renovating houses and doing all that. It doesn't have to be be anything, and it can be leatherwork specifically. I mean, I did most of it with leatherwork, but you have to be looking towards what other places in my life can I solidify in a way that my leatherwork will support them, right? So whether eating ramen, like the first thing I did when I got out of college and I graduated in 2009, right in the middle of a recession with a fine art degree and BFA, I didn't even take a math class. I couldn't even be a secretary. The first thing I did was bust ass and pay off my student loans. And because I knew that if I didn't have any debt, then no matter where I was working, no matter what I was doing, if I sold a wallet for $100, odds were 30 of that would go in my pocket. Even if I had to pay rent, even if I had to do whatever, you know? So you really have to be smart about. I had a college professor who was a graphic designer. I went to school for graphic. You know, my focus was graphic design, and he said, you know, I work freelance and I love doing my graphic design, but I spend 2 hours a day watching the markets. When there's a plane crash, I invest in airplanes. When there's an issue with cigarettes, I invest in tobacco. And it's my way of making sure that I get to do what I love because what I love does not pay the bills.
Right.
There's a lot of you have to, at some point, some people, depending on what they make, have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, objectively, what I do will never pay my bills. I'm not saying that's for all leather work, but you know, you do have to look at either a hybrid model or how you can be more efficient in making a base model or something that appeals to more people, you know, in order to clear up that time and space for you to make the stuff that you love. In my experience, someone in the chat might be might have a different way to do it. You know what I mean? If you want to make 10,000 keychains a year, make 10,000 keychains a year. You know,
Right.
That can also be a way to work. But if you want to look at it as a business, if you want to get into another business to make money, I would. It's not an easy way to make money. I can think of 15 different ways that involve a lawnmower that it's easier to make money doing.
We've talked about it before. Pictures of your feet are a much easier way to make money than doing this.
Oh my God, I would reverse that. I would say every wallet comes with a picture of my feet unless you pay me more money and I remove it. That's how much I hate feet.
There you go. So yeah, and Melissa, you could sell pictures of the goats that come with the wallets.
Yeah, they're pretty cute.
Only hooves.
Only hooves.
Only hooves.
I think
And I have no idea about how that shit works, but I'm assuming you could get a farrier to come out and paint the goats hooves red or whatever if somebody actually requested that, right? Sort of, you know, not related anything to fetishes around red painted goat hooves, but
on to other fetishes.
on to other fetishes. Somebody was asking, how do you get your name out there? And I think, at least from my perspective, like, don't depend on social media, not anymore.
Well,
So, you know, if your plan is to jump on Instagram and make a name for yourself and try and sell shit that way, it's not a good idea. Like, I don't think you're going to get successful with that. See right there, we're already seeing I pay extra for pictures of Charlie with my dad hands goods.
I mean, she's pretty fucking cute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you get your name out there? How do you make a name for yourself? Social media is not, at least in my perception, social media is not it. Like we've already been, that ship is already gone. Like it's too tough around here anymore. I mean, especially at least with doing leather work, the market is completely saturated in terms of Instagram leather workers. Like unless you have something totally crazy that's going to help you stand out, but
I mean, that's the thing though. I agree and disagree with you. I think you have to make something that's so good people can't ignore it.
That's fair.
That's it. And it just happened with it's not leather, but this company just made a pair of essentially Crocs that were Monstera leaves. And all they did was post a picture on Instagram. It got picked up by Hypebeast and they had sold out of it's, you know what I mean? Like you have to be willing to step out of, I'm going to make card holders. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you see that? I mean, you see, even to this day, you see leather workers get on Instagram and blow up.
Those?
Yeah.
Those are sick.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It still happens all the time. And so I don't think social media is a bad way. I'm not one of those people that think social media is dead or leather's oversaturated. I think the particular type of leather and the particular type of Instagram posts are oversaturated.
Yeah,
if you
fair.
think you
that's fair.
Holder and start getting sales, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. Like, if you think you're going to jump on and start making bifold wallets out of shell Corter and get any amount of traction, you're probably mistaken.
Right.
If you think you're going to jump on and make something out of Pueblo leather, and blow up, you're probably mistaken.
I would say leather doesn't matter at all. It's form and function. It doesn't matter what the leather is.
Yeah.
If your stuff doesn't work in natural veg, then don't bother you putting it in any other leather, in my opinion. But that's the degreed fine artist who, you know, is very hard on myself and has found success in being that hard on myself. You know, it has to be something that draws people's attention. You know, it has to be. And
draw people's attention and
correctly, and it has to be something that looks nice. but you have to prioritize whether form or function is your thing. And then you have to prioritize, you know, how far you're willing to go on social media and how you're going to do it, which means you have to learn social media. So, you know, you do have to be kind of a jack of all trades. But my move is still letting the customer decide whether what I make is necessary, you know, or whether it's white noise. They either turn on the TV or they don't. Or you turn the TV on for them. They either keep watching or they shut it off. And that's basically it for me. But I know that's very old school, and people can be like, well, you just buy a Shopify account and you advertise on Instagram and you put these pictures up and you A/B test this, that, and the other thing, and then you have Waterbury Leather show you wallets, and then you have a leather company. I mean, that's a viable business plan.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, since you brought up Waterbury, I mean, that's relevant to the production stuff. I mean, so if you're willing to put 10 grand in it and you've got a design that you're willing to, you know, kick them to make, you know, a huge chunk of, and you've got the market for it, that's how you get into production work versus custom work. But that's a little bit different too. Nate's bringing up a good point also, that, you know, if you go ride or die on a certain material, and then the trend moves away from that material, you could find yourself in the fuck territory if you haven't, you know, to your point, if you haven't made something that's good form and function, and you have decided that, you know, you are going to go 100% into shell cordovan, and then all of a sudden tastes move away from shell cordovan, you could find yourself in a little pickle.
Yeah, it's not even taste move away from shell cordovan. I love shell cordovan. But now there are how many tanneries now make shell cordovan compared to in 2010?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not knocking the tanneries making shell. Yeah. It's just
it's a lot more accessible than it used to be.
Right, which I think is a good thing. Is someone who just did a full run of, you know, my own shell.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you,
yeah.
I own a lot of shitty old cars, and doing that shell run costs a lot less than any of them.
Yep.
It's not big of a deal, you know, and it is a big deal. I'm not saying it's not a big deal that we did it, but it is not it didn't cost $10,000 to do that.
Right. Yeah.
You just talk to people, ask around, have a good idea, have a good concept. Mm-hmm. I went to Ricardo and I said I wanted to make tie-dye shell, and I sent him pictures of tie-dye because he didn't know what tie-dye was because he was in Italy. And he went, yeah, let's see if you know, it was a challenge to him. Let's see if I can do that out of, you know, I can make that pattern work with my dyes and how shell works with dye. And that's all concept driven. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't make anything special out of it because that was a celebration of the material.
Right.
But it was a celebration of the material for a very limited amount of time. I could have ordered 300 of those hides, and that I could have been the tie-dye shell guy, but it would have never lasted. You know what I mean? Fads come and go in the businesses. You can make a lot of money with fad. Look at American Apparel. Look at, you know, plenty of companies. But you got to know when to get out. And when you try to time the market, you always lose. Yeah.
Which kind of takes us into one of the next questions was, so if it's not social media, where else? And we can get into the other stuff that, you know, I had on our list for tonight was, you know, setting up at a market, going hyper local, figure out a place where you can set up a table, right? I mean, that's another option to, air quotes, get your name out there, is be someplace that has a lot of foot traffic. It's a little bit different approach because it's not, you know, you don't have the great wide, huge, you know, audience that Instagram and all the other social media and Facebook and whatever else will bring you, right? But I know a lot of people do markets. A lot of people are really successful at it. You know, some people, and it's flip side too. I mean, you can set up at a market and you got to have a little bit of a thick skin because there's going to be some assholes that show up that are going to say, you know, shitty stuff about your stuff. But I know, Melissa, you had some stuff you wanted to get into about a friend that recently set up a market of some sort, right?
Yeah, it's actually like a brick and mortar, like a retail store. And I'm just curious, like, just because I've never heard of it before, but like the way they're running it is you pay per month, like how much space you want in their shop, but then on top of that, they take commission on sales.
Yeah. Tyler, you've got a retail situation as well, right?
Okay.
Yeah, not nearly as complicated. My head doesn't work in that space. And to Eric's point, like I took 1 or 2 math classes and sucked at them. So like I typically stay out of those situations unless I think I'm in 2 to 3 stores, but I typically look at like mostly menswear stores that I have a relationship with the store owner, manager, whatever, and it's kind of like a handshake sort of deal where they're actually just paying for everything up front, and once it goes to them, if they sell it, great. If they don't sell it, great. But to Eric's point earlier, which is really interesting, is what happens when your stuff in their store goes on sale, right? Or your stuff goes on sale in their store, right? Because they can't move it. What does that do for the secondary market and your brand integrity and everything like that, which I'm fortunate that hasn't happened in any situations, I guess, but mostly my situations have all swirled around kind of no upfront costs. I'm not renting space in your store. We're probably buddies. I probably buy shit from your store anyways. So that, you can take that for what it's worth. And I'll keep supporting you. And then 2, what I'm giving you is probably already at like a wholesale price anyways. So if you're a friend in this situation is renting space, give it to them at wholesale and then also losing 10% or whatever commission on top of everything, I'd say get the fuck out, personally, but that's just, that's just my.
I haven't signed up. It's just one of those things that I never heard of it,
Yeah.
but like, I guess maybe it's more of a collective situation because I do have stuff in a store and it's all consignment. So if it sells, it sells. If not, like it's a local thing or whatever, but I just never heard of the like paying up front for space, or it's like per month for a space or whatever.
It's like one of those antique stores. That's how antique stores work.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah. That's where my head went originally.
Taking the product, you're just finding it in the barn.
Yeah.
So if it's
And there's some places like that around Atlanta that do something similar where it's, you're paying a rental fee plus they take commission out of whatever they sell. I will say through some horror stories through friends locally, you have to be 100% certain on what your protection is when you do something like that. Mm-hmm. So the lady that taught me how to make jewelry was doing something out of a place locally in Atlanta called Citizen Supply. And she had a huge display case full of jewelry that the store, and kind of the deal was like, if you're interested in a piece, somebody from the store came over, unlocked the case, got whatever out, you look at it, you either buy it, you don't, they put it back, they lock the case back. Somebody didn't lock the case and cleaned her out. So it was like everything that she had, like, 75 pieces of jewelry that got cleaned out, and the store kind of waved around the terms and conditions and were like, well, we didn't guarantee you against theft.
Yes.
So
I backed out of an art gallery a couple years ago that asked for me to be part of the gift shop permanently. And I actually read the contract and it was like, if something gets stolen, they only pay out half of the artist payout, which is 60%. So you'd be getting 30% if something got stolen on their watch. So for me, it was just like, I would be making zero money and I'm not the one making sure it's not getting stolen. So like,
right.
I just
you have no control over it.
Yeah.
There's also something about like, we don't sell retail anymore at all, but I had international distribution for years. I was Japan, England, all across the globe. And when you're working in a commission situation, the problem with commission for me, and I understand friends opening collectives and that kind of thing is cool, right? But when you're paying for a spot and then you're also giving commission, it benefits the store owner for your stuff to not sell, because
right, then you're paying
you're just paying rent to them, and they know that if they have 15 spots making them $80 a month, they're going to pay their mortgage, their rent or whatever, right? Yep. The other thing is, say you have a wholesale order, right? Sales, I think that people kind of there's very rarely ever going to be a chance, unless you are a very large brand, that a small menswear shop puts your stuff on sale to move it because they see that the leather's getting a little dry or whatever, and you lose a significant amount of income because 5 or 6 people bought that wallet that was on sale compared to buying it off your website, right? The third thing is that if you don't have a shop that's willing to invest in you by buying your product wholesale up front,
Right.
why do I want to work? There
That's
isn't that trust there. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
see my stuff and you don't believe in me enough to think that you can buy
Right.
the minimum wholesale amount and sell it, it's not worth my time because I'm going to get a bunch of sunburned veg tan back that I can't do a goddamn thing with. Sorry, excuse me, chat. A gosh darn thing with.
You can say, God damn it, I'm all right with it.
Well, I don't.
yeah.
I want to try to be a little bit,
Yeah.
respectful with the religious stuff there. But
Oh.
yeah. But
That's where we draw the fine line in this chat.
Yeah,
it's it's what I'm just trying to find as I go on my little rants.
No, I mean, I think that
what are you asking me to invest in your unproven model compared to what you're asking me to invest in my time and the craft that I've honed?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not paying me up front because you know you're going to work and sell the wallets and you own them if you don't sell them, I don't want to part in it.
Yeah.
But I don't need wholesale these days because I cut that out of my program completely. It's too easy to sell direct to customer and control the entire start to finish thing.
Right.
I don't personally think, I think that you should buy local for specific things. I think leatherwork specifically, the material changes too much when you have people picking it up and handling it and stuff. It's just the way it goes.
I mean,
I've had my
fair point too.
for a year, and you look at a wallet, even a black wallet that's been in a store case for a year and held by 16,000 people, or not thousand, like 100 people.
A bunch of paws.
That's a used wallet. That's you probably touch your wallet 100 times in 3 months. You probably touch your wallet the same amount of times that you own that a wallet in a case does in a retail store. And so by the time someone buys it, unless it's fresh off out of the box, I want to control my product's experience, and you're able to do that with the internet. I don't think you should ever pay to sell your product. I don't think you should ever, that's the thing, is like that's my big thing, is if you're not willing to invest in me, why should I be willing to invest in you?
Yeah, and somebody asked in the chat, or it was a question like, hey, how do you develop a wholesale relationship? I know for me, it's been, a friend's business or whatever else, and I've, done a couple of samples and said, either in one situation it was they asked me to, the other situation I proactively did it, and I was like, hey, I think I made up this thing, that would, I think, align right with your brand. What do you think? And it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I would have never conceived of this myself. Yeah, let's do a wholesale order.
Yeah.
And especially like when and that was one of the things that, when I was first starting out, it got me over a pretty big hump and it was just pure dumbass luck. I didn't know what I was doing. It just intuitively seemed right because they were, and I was like, hey, cool, I'm doing this thing. I'm going to fuck around and I'm going to make this thing that, you might dig, and it clicked. So, unfortunately there's no kind of recipe for it, but if you want to do wholesale orders for somebody, it's, you got to do a little bit of the Fuller Brushman kind of sales work of, hey, here's some samples. What do you think? And similar to, walking it around places that are close to you, in your town, in your city, whatever, that you think might want to carry things like you make, do up a couple samples. And you don't have to, like we talked about in prior weeks, you don't have to make one wallet in 13 different colors of leather to do something like that. It's cool. I'm going to make a couple different things and take them in and introduce yourself and, say, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. Is there an opportunity to, work with you guys in that way? And maybe you have a productive conversation. Maybe you don't. But that's kind of how some of those things get done, especially if you're really small and starting out and don't have a huge name otherwise. You gotta be Shane doing the knocking door to door, raising money for UNICEF. as you're a kid doing that kind of stuff, selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever else. I mean, it's that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And the same sort of rules apply. Don't go apply for a job at a restaurant at 7 p.m. at night. Like, if you're going to do that stuff, don't show up on Saturday at 2 p.m. and thinking that's going to be a good time for somebody to talk to you about a wholesale gig. It's
the one thing. Sorry, Chuck. The one thing I'll add, and I'm actually going to jump off here just because I don't know how you guys are still awake, but I'm exhausted. And this was my fault because I pushed it back. But I will say that the one thing that the one piece of advice I guess I would give, because I think, back to the conversation about tools and fantasizing about tools and feeling like you need X, Y, and Z to get the job done and so on and so forth. I feel like, and I went through this phase, and I'm sure probably all four of us did at some point, is a lot of people I feel like think that like getting that wholesale account or getting your stuff in a store or whatever it is like, the peak of the mountain or whatever. And there's not really much more thought than that, I guess. So like the one thing, in the relationships that I've built, and again, like I'm not sitting here saying I'm in 20 stores, I'm in 2 stores right now and I've been in 4 total. Is like, to Eric's point, is like, what does the relationship look like, and what is your goal? Like, is the goal to get 10 products in their store and have your name out there because it's going to, build a ton of brand recognition? Or is it a relationship that you want to have for years to come and be a staple in their store and potentially, have them reorder and multiple times, and continue to build a rapport and do well and make money? Obviously that's important, but I've always looked at it in a way where like, I want to put stuff in their store that's going to sell so that they have to come back to me, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, whatever, and ask for more, right? And continue to build that loyalty and relationship with the store owners and whatnot. And that's only going to help with, the potential, sales or the potential conversation like you're alluding to right now, Chuck, with the next person that you go and speak with. Hey, my stuff's been in this store for 2 years, because it's been doing well and, X, Y, and Z versus, I've been in one store and, I gave them 10 pieces and never heard from those people again. And now I don't have a relationship with this store. They never sold any of my stuff. I went into the store, saw all my stuff sitting there. That's, I think there's a couple different ways that you can go about it, but I've always looked at it as like a year-long plan or whatever. And like, I've been fortunate enough to, have like re-upped orders with a lot of these people, versus, oh man, I'm going to get huge and I'm going to blow up because I have, 10 card holders in this store that I made whatever, $20 total on, right? So $100, $200 order or whatever is what's going to make me, explode, on the scene or whatever. And I think it kind of goes in line with like a lot of the trends and stuff that we're seeing, or, why people, might think that this leather world, I guess, is saturated or whatever, because a lot of people are just thinking the exact same way, and not doing anything different. But again, that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. But I'm gonna pop off, let you guys keep rolling with this thing.
awesome.
Eric, good having you on. We'll be in touch soon with the next steps of all this thing, with all this marathon stuff. And appreciate you guys as always. And I will probably pop onto the YouTube once it gets uploaded, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah. It'll be up tomorrow for sure.
All right, later, guys. Enjoy. See you guys.
Bye.
So, are we going to talk about toilets now? Is that now the opportunity to talk about toilets?
Toilets?
Yeah.
We installed a toilet yesterday.
We installed one.
So just randomly wanted a new toilet? How'd the whole thing happen?
Oh, it's so much more aggressive than that. I have very long hair.
I lost a bet.
Yeah. So I have super long hair, and I was cleaning the toilet bowl, and I thought it was a hair, and it was a crack. And then it was a crack like right down the middle of the bowl, right? So I'm like, oh, that sucks, but it's not leaking, so I'm just going to use it for a couple more days. So then I hop on the internet. I'm like, how hard is it to replace the toilet, and how serious is this crack? Like, am I going to be sitting? I'm not a small man, you know this. Am I going to be sitting on this toilet? Is it going to crack completely in half? And
It's like a bad dream.
It sounds like
Right.
sounds like one because we all ran across on the internet when we were like 15 and the internet was new, and it's burned into our minds, and we're like, I never have seen it again, and I can still remember it. But I ended up on like this Reddit thread about how they call it the death crack, because it went like up the bowl and around the side. And if you sit on it and it breaks, it'll like cut your aorta and you'll bleed out. And I was like, yeah, that's the face I made. And it was a bunch of people who had to go to the hospital because their toilet broke while they sat on it.
Holy shit.
So I just kind of hauled my ass to Home Depot, bought a $120 American Standard, and then we just had a no sitting down on that toilet rule until Kaylee, I almost called you. So, until Melissa came and helped me because she's installed a toilet before. And
so was smushing down the wax seal everything you thought it was going to be?
It wasn't. It was 75% because I later learned that you're supposed to ride the toilet like a horse backwards and rock back and forth.
Yeah.
And on it forwards with my feet up like a roller coaster. So I got some of the experience, but I did not get the full.
So you went 10 toes up to seat that toilet.
I had my feet on the ground. Like the first time I was like, why does it feel like I'm not putting any weight on this? And I realized I had my feet on the ground like I was using the toilet. And then I had to sit down and then like lift my feet up. So I'm like doing one of these like I'm on a water slide trying to like set this toilet seal. And but yeah, so for those of you out there, if you have it's like a cracked windshield but dead gas.
Get that fixed. It's $120 and it's not hard to do.
Whatever the one in your thigh is, I'm not.
Femoral. It's your femoral artery.
I was 16 the last time I took a math class. Remember what we're talking to here.
Sure.
It's not math. It tells you what your aorta is.
Whatever class that does tell you, I never took that one ever. So, what's the one in your thigh?
I don't know.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, because your femur bone, the femoral artery.
Oh, the aorta of my cats. All my cats had problems with their aorta, so that's why I'm remembering aorta.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize. I'm going to turn it into a sad cat story so no one can be mad at me. Did you sledgehammer the old one out after you installed the new one?
Oh, can we not go back on here? Okay.
No.
Oh, it's a laptop.
Yeah, it's a laptop. Did you sledgehammer the one out after you had installed the new one? That would have been really hard because we would have had been running dual toilet setup, which, while a dream, is not where I'm at right now yet. You guys got to buy a few more patterns before I'm running dual toilets.
Or, well, I mean, if you were appropriately on land, you would plant flowers in the old toilet in the side yard.
Hell of that, but it's in the back of the truck.
It's going to the dump, man. I'm such a hoarder that I'm already worried. I have 2 canoes. We picked up snuck down to my old piece of land and picked up a bunch of white oak. They redid all the sewer systems in the town that my last house was in.
Yeah,
and I would just night and collect these giant. They're 4x4 white oak posts, and I had a whole truck bed full of them
with a bunch of metal hanging off and shit.
I have too much.
It's very safe work over here.
The last thing I need is a toilet floating around, a crack toilet that someone could.
Well, that's a lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't want someone's kid to sit on the flower pot, and all of a sudden we got a dead kid in the yard.
Right. Well, see, Your Honor, here's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
My friend Melissa came and we pulled this toilet out.
Right. Imagine you're only. The defense has a Reddit thread, like the proof that you read a Reddit thread on how dangerous the crack in that toilet is.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Somebody's going to do the forensic analysis on your laptop and show that you know. On April the 2nd, Eric looked at this and he knew how dangerous it was. And my little Johnny would be alive today if he didn't put peonies in that toilet in his side yard.
Right, and then there would be a Moms Against Using Toilets as Flower Pots, thing, and then that's who Tyler would be running for in the Boston Marathon in the future.
Right,
and it would.
It's only a matter of time till there's people outside your house with banners and shit, and it's just not worth it.
I'm just trying to be a good person. We're gonna go toss that thing in the dump. I'm very much looking forward to throwing it and watching the toilet explode onto the ground. I think that might be fun.
Now, toilet shot put. You can set up a slow-mo on the what the hell those things are when they film bumblebees in slow motion or whatever.
On the slow-mo cameras.
So Sophia asked if we're gonna make a Besties YouTube video. Maybe we should office space that old toilet in your driveway. You did
No.
just get a sledgehammer.
I just bought a 10 pound. I bought a 10-pound sledgehammer and realized how useless it actually is.
Yeah, no, 10-pound sledgehammer sounds like a good idea until you have to swing it the third time.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh yeah, this is not a whole lot of fun.
Around my house, and I was like, well, I can't use it on my wall because I'm not going to knock the damn house down. It's 125 years old. So yeah, I have a 10-pound sledge now. So if you want to come knocking, you know, F around and find out. It's four rooms away, so I won't be able to reach it. You know, you'll definitely win, but I own one.
So, corollary question, bidet or no bidet?
I'm going to install one of those. I didn't go permanent bidet because I feel like that's just like you have to like take a toilet apart to fix it. But I would like to get one of the ones that a clip-on bidet, because then if it breaks, you can just take it off and put another one on.
I will say that's what we're rolling around here, and it's perfectly serviceable. But of course, I live in Atlanta, where the water coming out of the ground is not freeze your butthole closed on any given particular day. So
Not here either. That's our problem is sand. If you have a well, you got sand in your water.
you got sand in your butthole, and that's not a good thing either.
I mean, you know, people pay a lot of money for mud face masks, so who knows? You know,
Maybe that's a wave of the future.
perfect.
Butthole.
To fill palms. Oh my god. Okay, so Harry Styles does an unbelievable cover of Sledgehammer on the
Really?
Howard Stern show, and the
No.
whole the performance is on YouTube because he recorded at Phil Collins' studio.
Okay.
Go watch his live band. It's like he walked through a park, found an indie band, and was like, "Hey, do you want to just make amazing top 40 hits and bring Shania Twain out and play Coachella?"
Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
I would highly suggest looking up the Harry Styles version, the Harry Styles covering Sledgehammer on Howard Stern, if that is your thing.
Well, I don't know if that
I mean, I think it's worth probably the time. I mean,
I'm a
it's
big
the
Harry, Harry
I'll
Styles.
watch it once. I mean,
I love him. I don't. He can do no wrong in my book, and I don't care who knows it.
we're
no,
pro Harry Styles around here. Very nice.
You know, breaking away from the Harry Styles thing, yes, I am going to go bidet to answer your question, Chuck. But I didn't go permanent bidet. I went, why is this Kohler $400? Okay, I'm going to get the $120 one, and I just got a normal.
No, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, again, it's make the tool earn its spot, right? If the $120 toilet isn't getting it, then possibly invest in one that's more expensive. But function over cost, like it has a purpose, and if it does that purpose, you don't necessarily need one that's gold plated or whatnot.
I found out. So the toilet that I had bought, the toilet that I replaced was the more expensive one, and the only difference was an extra bolt holding the back on.
Okay.
There's a Kohler versus American Standard for those toilet enthusiasts that are still in the
The
chat.
Kohler had like a bigger tank reservoir. Like this is a low flow, isn't it?
No.
It's still the same. It's still the same gallons per flush, right? I mean, it's still 1.2 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a normal 1.3 gallons per flush, toilet.
Right.
That's it. It just doesn't say Kohler on it, which I don't know. I like the American Standard logo around. It reminds me of middle school because all the urinals standard.
Absolutely. Plus they have that video where it's or the picture on it where it's like we can flush a whole driving range bucket of golf balls down this toilet.
I am not going to test that, but I am pretty sure that's not true. I have used it since it's been installed. Pretty sure that's not true. They could try though. It could be if they want to go for it. I also don't think my septic system that's surrounded by sand would really appreciate that. The leaching field would probably blow up. But not a low point of conversation yet. Just saying, I think we all have ways to go. So, I mean, it's house renovations. Like if you want to do this stuff, like the way I'm 36. I moved up here when I was 26. I had $3,000 to my name when I was 26, and I put half down on this house. If you're not willing to do this work, it's not. We're having fun talking about toilets and stuff, but if you're not willing to go like, oh, I'm single right now, I could live in a house and redo it and sell it for a bit more than I paid for it. That's a good way to. If you have the means to do it, and the way that I did it was there's the USDA has rural loans for places where people don't necessarily want to live, and it's a zero money down, very low percentage loan. And so it cost me $2,200 to buy my first house, like on Cape Cod in the tourist town.
Crazy.
Yeah, you just have to be creative with it. And so, like I said, if you want to be able to make custom bags for a living, you either become extremely, extremely, extremely well known, you work for Hermes, or you have like everything turns into a side hustle, but in a fun way, basically.
And
that's it.
Just to continue the toilet thing for just a second. I mean, that's one of the easiest it's one of the easiest and best upgrades you can do. I mean, especially if you buy a little bit of an older home, because I've never lived in a new house. I don't know what that's like.
Another tip my realtor taught me is change the doorknobs.
Yeah.
Any point of contact is going to sell a house. Is going to sell a house quicker. Put new doors on all the doors in the house. It's going to make the house feel newer, and it's one of the cheapest things you can do.
100%. I mean, that's when we moved into this place. My dad came one weekend, and we did every freaking doorknob and door hinges because my wife is that way, and she's like, we can't have hinges that don't match the knobs. So we swapped the whole thing out.
Y'all don't put 4 coats of paint over your hinges so they hide and you can never see them?
We're not landlords.
I think I'm a demon.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
every one of those.
I would argue people that do leather work have a certain amount of inclination to working with their hands anyway.
Yeah.
And just like you can watch Eric do stuff or any number of on social media, YouTube, whatever, on how to make a wallet, whatever it is around your house that needs to be fixed, guaranteed there's a dozen different videos on how to do that.
Yeah.
And I've always taken the approach myself, like, cool, I'm going to try it myself once, as long as it doesn't require like specialty tools or whatever. Right. I'll try it once, and if I fuck it up, then I got to pay somebody to fix it anyway. So, as long as I don't make it drastically worse, there's no harm in trying it in the first place, right?
There's also just so much instruction out there now. Like, the last time I changed out a toilet was like a fucking decade ago. So we just read the instructions. I'm like, okay, this looks kind of familiar, whatever. Pulled the old one out, and we still...
The instructions are on the outside of the box. That's how easy it is.
And it came with everything. Oh, except for the stupid water connector.
Which we just used.
Yeah,
so,
which, I will say, like, when we moved into this house, our local water co-op had a rebate program for low-flow toilets. So I replaced the toilets in this house, and it cost me like $20 a toilet because the water company had a rebate program for putting in low-flow toilets.
Okay.
So
then did you realize low-flow toilets are like the worst thing in the world and put regular toilets back?
No, not really. I think,
This might be my diet talking, but I can't handle low-flow toilets. It doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work.
That was when I lived in D.C., they had a similar program, but they actually required that you destroyed the old toilet to where it could not be reinstalled.
That seems like a dangerous way to make like a lot of shards in the street.
Yeah.
It was a full-on sledgehammer deal. My buddy did it, and like you had to take a picture of the hole in the bowl of the toilet that made it unusable for them to pay the rebate.
Can you? I feel bad for the poor intern who had to just stare at holes in toilets all day.
Oh yeah, no, there's somebody who was looking at God knows what came in those pictures. Is what it is. But yeah, I mean, a lot of home improvement stuff is totally approachable. Even to the point, Eric, where you've shown stuff around your shop of making tables, making tools, like making tools. Like, you can make your whole life easier if you want to tackle, making shit that's not leather or whatever.
Well, thing with like we have a video on our on the YouTube channel where we built our workbench, and I used a couple 4x4s, but with the new workbench, I mean, 4x4s are pretty expensive these days. It's easier to build a workbench with 2x4s and just system up.
Yep.
And it costs you like, I mean, we're sitting at a 4x8 bench right now, and I think it costs $90.
This is a really comfy bench.
Like in like COVID money, like in COVID money, it was $90.
COVID lumber money. That was real money.
Like it was nuts, and it took like 9 2x4s and an hour and a half to build, and that was it. 2 sheets of plywood.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you know, you got to learn how to build the stuff yourself. And I don't know. I had this like come to God moment where I was like, I could either work to pay for the things that I need, or I could just learn how to make the things that I need.
Yeah, I can work and sell 30 wallets to get this table, or I can just go buy the lumber and make the table my damn self.
Exactly. And so that kind of changed my thinking. I was young when that happened. I feel lucky that I learned that when I was like in my early 20s. And that's when things really picked up, because it saves you so much money, and it doesn't necessarily save you a lot of time. You know, you get to the point where you're like, okay, I have the space that I need, or the tools that I need, and I can grow the business. I can scale where it might not be worth the 3 hours for me to build a table. That's totally possible. But on the other end of things, anything you build, you're going to know how to fix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any part of the shop, any part of the house, any part of anything. So, and the other thing I think people don't understand is there's so much education about leatherwork out there that it seems that there's a new person hopping in every day. If you can make a leather wallet, you can do like half the things to the house. It's so much harder to make a leather wallet than it is to do like.
You learned how to drywall yesterday.
I learned how to mud and tape. I had already installed the drywall.
I've done everything, so.
She has, yeah.
Yeah, Eric's learning things.
But and I taped a couple.
Are we talking about home improvement, or are we talking about only hands?
About
Y'all don't want to see my hands up close.
Oh, only hands.
Um,
Sanding drywall earlier.
Dude, Eric, forever, all we ever saw was your hands. So this is a whole new experience of seeing anything but Eric.
You got in your face a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. You got it's like one eyebrow.
I was cracking up when you guys were talking about
Calluses?
about calluses the other day, because I can't feel anything, and then like I got a splinter. It was about a 1/2 inch long splinter in one of my fingers the other day.
Yeah.
And I just I took a pair of scissors and just cut it out.
That's what you're supposed to. Well.
Like my calluses are so thick that like I mean I cook and I don't use utensils. I'll just flip a piece of meat. Like that's kind of I have like 2 tests when people say they're full-time leather. The tests are can you feel things with your fingertips, and can you smell leather? Because if you can smell leather still, you're not spending enough time around leather. I can't smell leather. I haven't been able to smell leather in 10 years, unless it's something exotic. And then if you've ever accidentally burnt your finger because you're touching something so hot that your calluses are so thick that you don't even realize what you're touching. And that's a good way to you don't have to go by those parameters at all. If you want to wear the weird finger condom things that everyone's wearing, go for it. You know, I'm not, it's not a way to live that people have to live by, but it's always kind of 2 questions that I ask that I'm always interested in when people come up to me and say like, oh, I do a ton of leather work too. It's like, okay, cool. Let's gauge this. How much leather work?
Yeah, fair.
And I'm not judging anyone. It's just like how deep are you into it? And it goes with a lot of trades. Like you have no fingertips at all because you burned them all off.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, I have fingertips.
Well,
Let's
she is. Yeah, she's more callous than I am.
Yeah.
And I can't touch something and tell you how it feels.
Right.
That's how on both hands. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting hearing the callous conversation.
Yeah. I mean, that's working in restaurants too. I mean, at some point, working in restaurants, you just grab hot stuff, and it just doesn't matter anymore. I mean,
you have to, because you're in such a hurry. So like I was a line cook for a bit, but then I have 20 years of metal fabrication and.
Yeah. No, I still have, you know, the scar on top of that finger from cutting limes, bartending,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
all of a sudden, blood's everywhere, and I'm like, oh, what the hell's just happened here? Oh, because I almost cut the tip of my finger off. And I still have like numbness in my hands from that kind of stuff too. I mean, it kind of comes and goes, but and that's one of my indicators for when I've been, doing, work down here for too long is, oh, when I start to not be able to feel my fingertips, I probably need to take a break for a little bit.
That's when
and you do, and then you get back to it. I mean, maybe it's carpal tunnel. I don't know. I mean, my day job is IT stuff, so could be carpal tunnel, could be any number of things. But because I'm dumb and stubborn, I'm like, what am I going to do? Go to a doctor and they're going to go, doc, it hurts when I raise my arm like this. And they, well, don't raise your arm like that.
My fingies hurt. What do I do?
Right. Like my fingertips get numb. They're going to go, what do you do? Well, I do this metal smithing and leather work. And they're going to go, you probably shouldn't do that. And I'm going to go, well, that's not a fucking option. So what else you got?
That's not, I mean, I have trigger finger right now in this thumb, so I can't bend it past here. Obviously that's a normal thumb, and this thumb is locked.
Yeah.
So I can get a surgery for it though. But insurance makes you, Canadian here, so insurance makes you get 4 cortisone shots to make sure that it's not fully locked before they'll pay for it. I think it's 3. So I've gotten 3 cortisone shots, and they don't last, they don't do anything, but it's a 14-week recovery.
Oh.
So it's like, am I going to have 14 weeks to recover from that surgery? It's going to be
Oh, yeah.
I have to work. So
I don't know if we did Camp Corter and you had a rotating cast of artists to come help out for a week or 2 at a time, we could make that happen.
I mean, yeah, I could just go really hard and stock the shop with the way that I do production, shut down customs for a couple months and do it. I'm not saying I couldn't, but I just learned to live with a thumb that bends this far on my non-dominant hand, and that's about it, But the shoulder thing is funny because, when you start doing, when we were talking about production work versus custom work, if you decide to do production work on manual machines, I threw a 3-year-old in the air, tore one rotator cuff, Corter tore another rotator cuff, and that was after a 2-week stint on an 8-ton blowing out a 2,000-piece keychain order. You really be careful with this stuff because I was my early 30s when that happened. And it literally was the doctor just making me do alphabets with my arms for 6 months because I didn't tear all the way through. I couldn't have. You do A, B, C, D, and it strengthens it. It heals your rotator cuff. Yeah. But you're at a lot of risk when you do this long term for repetitive motion injuries.
Which is, again, it brings us back to the point about diversifying your income, right? So, it's the same with tattoo artists and anybody that works with their hands and depends on that for their primary income.
Yeah.
It's if you don't work, you don't earn. Sure. So you have to find a way to get some other form of income that doesn't require you to be sitting behind a bench 24/7.
Trading time for money. Stop trading time for money. Once you do that, that's, in my mind, the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur doesn't trade time for money. A business business owner does. Yeah. And that's not, I don't mean to insult anyone or anything but that's the truth. An entrepreneur figures out how to make money when they're not doing the thing that makes them the money. And, that's a big part of being able to, I know a lot of people want to make leatherwork their life, and I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough and, met the right people and done all the right stuff to do that. But the big truth of it is that I've found ways to, the business runs when I'm not directly working in it. And that's brag, that's just the truth. That's how it has to work if you want to make it your full-time gig. That's basically.
Absolutely. That's why we need some sweet dad hands t-shirts coming out.
No.
With real illustrations though, not just your logo. You gotta draw real things. Yeah. Because she can draw we're going to get tattooed on Tuesday, and we drew up a bro tat. Oh. Okay. And I'd have to get that. It's better than the flash on the walls. And
of course it is. Of course it is better than the flash on the wall. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Is Melissa running off right now to get it?
Yeah, she's going to get her iPad to show you on her iPad on an iPhone while we watch a MacBook to read the comments. This whole Steve Jobs died in Apple. He's rolling in his grave right now with this whole.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
There's all sorts of random crap going on here to make this work. But yeah, she drew up a shark, and he's holding a paint palette, and we're gonna get some totally not related bro tat.
And that's your artist that you go to for all your other stuff is going to do that for you?
No, we have. I'm going to a different artist for this one. The artist that I was going to for a long time headed out. So not a lot of people stay on Cape for long. So I'm trying someone new, which will be interesting because they just built this like crazy like Miami style. It's huge. It's like
really
6,000 feet in Yarmouth.
What?
In Yarmouth of all places, like right on 28, like right where Puffer Bellies used to be.
Yeah.
They built this like 5,000 square foot facility that's tattooing, piercing, laser removal, all that stuff, like cosmetic stuff.
Wow.
The dude he just threw a bunch of money in, and it's a beautiful facility. And we were able to get a couple of walk-ins on Tuesday, so
nice.
We're gonna grab a couple of tattoos.
Interesting comment. So Norwest Pack is mentioning, hey, speaking of awesome art, are we going to be able to get posters of the Corter Irons art?
Well, hang on.
So no posters, which is very kind of you because she drew them. We do have a lot of stickers, and we are releasing a flash sheet. So if you want to go get a tattoo of a little chisel guy, you can go get a tattoo of a chisel guy. That's the tattoo we're getting.
Love it. I love it. No, I mean, so yeah, and I know we talked about that at some point prior where it's like, cool, let's go get Corter, have the coordinated day. I mean, that would be a kind of cool thing. So, hey, release the flat sheet. Anybody that wants to go get a tattoo, go do it on this day. And then
we're getting the first one. So
we're getting the first ones, though. We're going to get them Tuesday.
That's the rule.
Yeah.
So are you getting the shark on Tuesday, or are you getting the pricking irons on Tuesday?
Both.
I think they said they were going to do both. So we'll see if they do. But there's most of the flash sheet finished. We're going to tweak some stuff, but it's chisel guys doing
chisel guy things,
different stuff. And then we also have
what else we got?
I did a t-shirt too. So I did a long sleeve pocket tee. And we triple
with
print.
puff paint, right?
Thanks to Bucko guy. That's the wizard with the full length sleeve print and pocket print.
Yeah. So my only request on that was that it come in white. So when I tie dye it myself, that I can tie dye a white one.
We have to work out the thing with Bucko guy and me is we have a bunch of different stuff, right? So we have like a sponsorship, we have a licensing, we have a few different things. Mm-hmm. So it will eventually come out in white. It's coming out in like a faded denim with like an ivory ink. It looks like it's 20 years old. It came out so nice. Oh. But I wanted it was like dark for most people, but it's easily unisex. It's a comfort colors shirt, which is very Cape Cod, but also very now in style. It's nice and boxy but it's not too boxy, and they're really soft, and they're pre-washed and tumbled, and they look worn in, and plus it's got a fucking wizard chisel on the back shooting lightning bolts.
It's pretty sweet.
I mean, you're missing out if you grab that one. But yeah, so and Melissa did the drawings, and then I did the text, and we kind of work as a team as far as like illustrator, graphic designers is concerned on all this stuff, which is that's why she came out here. It's nice to work together in person, which is very cool. We feel very lucky to have her out here helping me with all this stuff, not just replacing the toilets.
Or pulling floor tax.
You are more than just a toilet handler, Melissa.
I hired a 100 square foot room the other day in 3 hours. It was insane.
Somebody's mentioning the X-Acto knife, and when is that coming out?
Yeah, you want to see? I just got today. I just got the Oh, I know. I just. Oh, okay.
You just get packaging on it today?
No packaging yet. That has
Oh,
been
the
like
knurled or the knurled hand, the knurled grip.
yeah, the neural grip. You have the one that you have. That's been kind of a nightmare, but we think we have it solved now. And I'll do my best to show you. I just need this one.
I don't know if we can.
Yeah.
Can't quite see it, but
So
it has.
this is
this one was kind of pre-production and has the slots on it instead of the knurled.
yeah. So this still has the slots. It's just it's a little more mellow, so it doesn't hurt as bad.
Okay.
And then the other thing is to take it apart. You still have room to put your own. If you want to weight it more, you can still put a rod in there to make it even heavier.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was,
I mean, this one's freaking. Maybe this one is different, but this one's like a freaking solid brass. Like
you might have gotten one of the first. I think I sent you one of the first ones.
this is. I mean, it looks like there's. I don't know.
No, mine are those are hollow. Chuck, he's had his for like a while.
Lucky.
Yeah, it's been like a year.
Yeah. You have one of the first ones we ever made.
Sweet.
But the big thing for us was this.
No.
Any chance the last few on the live can get a release date on the chisels? I'm not saying it's next Friday, but I'm not saying that we're aiming for next Friday. So you with that information as you will.
So that's that
that.
would coincide nicely with the end of the pattern release on HFA and got other stuff happening and
yeah. That is not a solid promise, but that is a discussed about today.
As the crow flies.
That is a discussed about today meeting tomorrow, have samples in my hands, have enough stuff to make the video to release them.
as we would say at work, that would be a directionally correct estimate.
Yeah. Not long. We'll put it that way. Not long. And then quarter pounders being made, and then we're working on packaging for that. And then this thing needs a little bit of testing. I'm not gonna fling it at you. This thing is.
Sorry.
I think Chuck, I'll be interested to see when you get the final one in your hand.
Yeah.
How much it feels, because to me it's a little wider, but it weighs the same, so it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
It's more like, you know how tattoo artists like wrap their guns in like a bunch of gauze, so it's like real cold.
Fatty.
Yeah, these are like just a couple millimeters thicker.
Ooh, this is nice.
Yeah, they feel even more sturdy than that one does, which I didn't think was possible. So what it did was, like, by making it a little bit wider, it spread out the weight a little bit more, so it's even more comfortable to use.
Well, and then you're cutting with the weight of the tool, not...
Right. Well, that was the whole concept in the first place.
Yeah, totally. But I think a lot of people misinterpret that when they do cuts.
So
What your tool...
this is the whole like collection, right? I mean, of all the stuff. But you know, this one, it's close to the Fiskars one, but the weight on this one is what makes all the difference in the world. Like, truly, the weight is like a harmonic balancer when you're using it, because for me, it stabilizes your hand, and it kind of takes a little bit of the human shakiness out of using one of these, right?
Yeah, and that was the goal with it in the first place was it wasn't brass, it was the weight.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, the brass has gotten beautiful over, because it'll be, I don't know, I got it last July, so
yeah,
you know, so it'll be close to a year. I mean, close to a year, whatever, however many months. Somebody asked, what size blades do they take?
Number 2 Exactos.
Yep.
But they will fit other Exactos. It's not just number 2s. They'll take the curvy ones and the other ones. I don't know if they'll take the smaller ones, but you really don't want to be cutting leather with those anyway. Like the thin, they'll snap.
Like a scalpel blade? Oh, those have like a special.
These number 11s.
11s. I think 11 is the size, the regular size.
Yeah, that'd be flimsy.
It's a little too flimsy for leather. Mm-hmm. But I always cut with number 2 Exactos. I know a lot of people don't cut with Exactos at all, and that's totally fine. You don't have to buy one of these.
Yeah, I've got. So this is the 11. This is the.
Yeah.
This is the 2.
They're a little bit week.
And you can definitely, I mean, the 2 doesn't really deflect, but the 11 has a pretty decent amount of bend to it.
The 2 I like because you can get a good sturdy cut in like a 3 ounce, but if you're cutting a 9 ounce, it flexes just enough to make the cut easy, but it doesn't flex enough to make the cut sideways.
Right.
Is what I like about it.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people, use all sorts of different, knives of all sorts. So,
I mean, that's my very first. Let's see if I can pull it out. 2 of them. Very first, I might have gotten rid of them. Oh no, there it is. So the very first knife that I bought to do leather with was from Blick Art Supply, and it's awful. Like because it flexes so much.
Yeah.
It's not great. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to use scalpel blades. No, that was a dumb decision too. But you just don't. Whatever, you got to try it. You got to fail for yourself before you figure out.
For a while, I tried using one of those stupid, like, Olfa pizza knife fucking deals. Because a certain YouTuber uses them a lot, and they are so flexible. Like,
I will say that, I've got one of these, and I love it for straight cuts. So if I can put my steel out and do, like, a long, 36-inch cut with it, it's great. But other than that, I mean, for me, it's got its place. It's the problem of I have like 42 freaking knives around here. But I will say, my go-tos are this one for, like a pattern knife. And honestly, I've gotten to the point where for straight cuts, this is just as easy as the pizza cutter is. So if you learn how to use a Japanese straight knife, where you're cutting here at the point, but your back is kind of your guide, and if you have your line set, you can pull a straight line with this like no problem. Yeah, but it takes practice. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it straight out of the gate.
I can pull a straight line with this. I can put a straight line on an entire hide this to cut belts, but it's because I've been doing it for 15 years.
Well, yeah, of course.
And I think that's the thing that people forget that didn't start 6 years ago.
Yeah.
What? No way.
It's been a long time.
Absolutely.
But so to answer the question, the chisels we're working to drop next Friday, if not the week after. But they're all done, they're all packaged, they're all ready to go. All the merch and extra jazz and stickers and they're included and all that kind of stuff is ready to go. And the only thing is the first batch is a little small, so if you want one, I'm not trying to pump things up and to 20 people in the room. I'm trying to hard sell it, but we went light on this first run. They're always going to be available, but the first run's a little light. So if you want to be in that first batch, I would definitely sooner than later pick them up when they drop.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, don't sleep on it.
As Melissa's been one of the ones testing them for you've had them for 6 months now, probably.
I only
right?
have the 3.8, so.
Yeah, that's true. So she found a defect in one of them, and we ended up fixing it. We had to switch metals.
I had to send them back.
Leave it to the metal worker. But we got a 6 steel now that we're using. That all the details will be on the website when it's up, so you know exactly what kind of steel it's made out of. And I'm just proud of them. It's like it's a surreal feeling, to be honest with you.
Well,
dude, I mean, and for me, from my perspective, just watching, I mean, when I first started watching you make stuff, it was with the old Weaver, white steel these jobbies, right? I actually kept this one. I got rid of all of them but one.
Yeah.
To just kind of remind me of this is what I started with. Actually, I didn't start with this. I started with that, which everybody did, right? So I mean, it's the craft tool.
My My first YouTube video is I use that chisel.
Yeah.
I work,
And then I upgraded to these, and I think I was telling before, like I snapped like the first set of these, like used it 3 times and snapped the teeth off because nobody told me when you pull it out of the leather, rock it this way, not this way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I went and sure as shit, it snapped off like 2 teeth, and I was like, "Oh, this stitching iron's crap." And I'm like, "No, I'm a dumbass, and I did it the wrong way." But I mean, that's the shit you learn, right? I mean, that's what experience gets you is how to rock your iron to pull it out of the leather.
Yeah.
And there's like a certain joy into learning that shit yourself, you know?
Oh, 100%.
I think because there's personal technique involved too.
Yeah.
You know, someone can tell you rock your chisel back and forth, but it all depends on how you plant your palm and where your hand is and movements and stuff, and everyone does it differently, and it's those micro movements that are so important that I think ultimately creates a style. Even though everyone can be making the same card holder, everyone's stitching is going to look a little different depending on how it's those little tiny nuances that I'm usually interested in when I'm looking at leather style, like other people's leather work.
Yeah, it's the interesting part of if you gave both Melissa and I your pattern, which I'm 99% certain we have probably made. I mean, I know for a fact we'll make the one that's dropping on Saturday, right?
The one that's
we will make it differently.
4 rivets and a snap.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
All right, I'm making it anyway. I don't like rivets, but fuck it, why not?
We need to get away from folded card wallets for a little bit. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm with you on that.
Tabs.
Yeah, stitchless without tabs.
Yeah.
Basically.
There you go. But yeah, so I mean, if Melissa and I both approach your pattern, even if it's a stitchless wallet, whatever, like it's the human element that makes what we produce different. It's the decision in what leather am I going to make it from versus what leather is Melissa going to make it from versus what leather are you going to make it from. That's
It's natural.
I may do it the throwback because I think I probably still have a piece like that big of the original Tandy Manager Special double shoulder that I have. Whatever Argentinian 5-ounce whatever leather I bought for my first one.
This stuff that smells like a sophomore chemistry room. Yeah. It's not. It doesn't smell good.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, that's the cool part of figuring all that stuff out. And yeah, there's a human element to all of it. And maybe there's a stitch that's not quite right or whatever else. I mean, there's it's the whole part where you can get into the beauty of imperfection, right? So it's if there's one stitch off somewhere, a person made that. That wasn't a machine. That wasn't a machine that made it with one stitch off. There wasn't a machine that has And as a maker, you look at stuff and you're like, oh, I had that little, half a millimeter dig on beveling or whatever else that your average person looks at it and doesn't even recognize it, but that you did it.
Sure.
But it means that a person, which is super cool.
You can look at it and can't even find the dig, and you're like, oh, what was I worried about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the, go for, don't worry about making it flawless and perfect. Because again, it's the whole Instagram shit. You can get caught up in somebody that's been doing something for 15 years and can make something perfectly because they've done it hundreds, thousands of times. Don't compare yourself against them because you're never going to add up. I mean, you can try, but you'll get frustrated and everything else in the process.
Well, and at the same time, like a lot of those people that are making that many of the same wallet and they're looking perfect and whatever, they're not sharing the mistakes. They're not sharing. They're not like, hey, I did. Look at this shitty line. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not really worth comparing.
Or to the point, I mean, it's the picture that they took of that is showing their product in a certain light, and they're not taking it from the angle that's directly down the stitching line that shows in the middle. It goes like that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can't see it looking from top down, but if you look down the stitch line, you can see it waver a bit. So they're not showing you that angle on purpose. You know, and again, to an end consumer, it's not going to fucking matter. Like, I look at it and I go, oh, this is horrible. Oh my God, I need to throw it away. So anyway.
Yeah. My favorite stories, I believe it's the Navajo people, where they're weavers and they always weave imperfections into their blankets because they think that a big, and I could be getting this slightly wrong, but if you're a weaver, your main goal is to weave a perfect blanket, and then that's it. And they weave imperfections into every blanket so that they can keep going. And I always thought that was a beautiful sentiment.
That is, yeah.
Because as someone who's been doing it for 15 years, perfection's boring. It's like, it's not, I don't want you to get I don't want you to get a piece that I made and you're like, okay, cool. Looks like a robot made it. You know what I mean? Even if it's handmade, I don't want it to look like that. I want there to be character. I want there to be, and it's personal preference. No one has to agree with me. I mean, if you want to emery board your edges until they sparkle, go for it. That's fine. That's something that's what you're passionate about. But you know, it's okay to like the other stuff too. Like there's a whole Japanese movement, I think it's Korean too, where they take raw edges and use those as their flaps, and then they'll build a wall around the raw edge. And the whole point is to use the shape of the raw edge to dictate the whole form of the wallet.
That's how I built my first purse.
Yeah.
That little flat, shitty flap.
Yeah. And I love that stuff because it's just like, you know.
That's what I did with this, and I never finished it, but yeah, on this portfolio,
yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
The flap is the raw edge, and you can still see the clips.
Yep.
This was actually a template for one of the first ones of these that I ever sold. But I saw that edge, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value, and I think.
And look at that. Inside of that is my original drawing to make the Corter tote bag, where I had measured it all out and drew the. How about that?
Oh,
hey.
Aww.
And now look at you.
Now look at me. I'm talking about toilets with my leather hero.
Toilets, and you're sending me pendants that say "fuck" on them.
And I keep that drawing right there on the top of my thing, underneath some paper towels. Very sentimental to me.
That was a really interesting one because I was like, oh, free pattern, but it was so big that I was just like, I'm just gonna flash it on the screen. You can screenshot it, and we got like hundreds of emails that were like, "Where's the pattern?" I was like, "It's the first 3 seconds of the video. Just you have to pause it. I'm not gonna make you print out." Yes. I was like, I'm not gonna make you print out like 17 pieces of paper and tape it all together to make 2 squares with a notch in it. It's not gonna. You can just like measure that out. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was when I learned a lot about the value of clarity in saving time in customer service with the pattern stuff.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
But again, I mean that was, you know, one of the bad, because of course, like I made probably 2 or 3 of them out of whatever leather I had, and then I made one out of Olmo Minerva box. And that's, you know, because of course, like, you know, made one for my wife. Like I made a couple of them to get it down and sold those off, and then made one out of Olmo Minerva box. And she actually carries that more than most of the other bags that either I've made or she's bought or, you know, whatever else. Like it's interesting. She owns, like when we would travel to Europe, that's the secret. If you're going to buy luxury shit, buy it in Europe. Don't buy it in the United States. Because it's cheaper. You get, you know, you don't have to pay VAT, all that other good stuff, right? Yeah. So she's got a couple of higher end bags, and she carries the Corter design, but made out of Minerva box, probably more than anything else, which is really kind of cool.
I mean, Minerva box just ages so wonderfully too. It's one of my favorite. Besides Missouri, and I think it's the Amazonia line from CLPA. Yeah. Minerva, like it's a little chalky the first couple months, and then after that, once it shines up, it's really hard to beat.
Yeah, it's
as far.
But I made her a matching. You know, when Kaylina did that phone long wallet that had the phone flap thing in it.
Yeah.
Which of course doesn't fit a phone anymore. But she still carries it, and that's been on my list to make her a replacement for that. But
We're gonna we have a video coming. It's a flat screen TV sleeve, so we should cover all sizes of phones for the next few years.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with all that, but anyway, we have now been on for 2.5 hours, and it's we've been on long enough that the Australian crowd is joining up because it's when they're waking up.
Hi, Australia.
And or it's an appropriate time for them to join. So I think we have pretty much encompassed worldwide with this 2.5 hours by doing a little bit later, which has been super cool.
Yeah, for us, and it worked good for us.
It worked
selfishly for us because we got back in trivia.
Yeah, we got back to trivia, which we learned that there are 11 time zones in Russia, which I think is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys win trivia or no?
Yeah, we won trivia third time in a row, third week in a row.
What'd you win?
$50 gift card.
Hell yeah.
We have over $1,000 in gift cards.
What the fuck?
We're a pretty good team.
They're really good. I was impressed.
I'm very little of it, but
I contributed nothing.
It's a pretty good team.
I mean, hey, if you can go in there and get a big chunk of your tab paid for every week, why wouldn't you?
We save them up, and then we have big nights where we just go all out and order whatever we want and pay the tab with the, you know, we do like a $400 night for 6 people and just order whatever and have a good time and then save up for the next one and that sort of thing. But it's not, unless it's about country music or modern anything, it's mostly the other people on the team. I'm not really useful for much.
Hey, I mean, don't count yourself out for the 90s shitbox categories. So
yeah, we don't get a lot of those questions, but I anything Garth Brooks related, which comes up pretty often, I get, except for I missed his childhood school picture on one of the bonuses the other week. But
I got the record one on this week. The record covers.
Yeah, she came in with the record. It's like a pretty intense trivia.
It was just a sheet of paper, and it was like Duran Duran's Rio, and then there's like a Beatles album, Notorious B.I.G., Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
What else? Harry Styles.
I got Harry Styles.
And then what was the one that Diane got?
It was Cardi B.
Yeah.
And then if you want to end the live with the last question, on a Scrabble board.
Oh fuck.
Right.
Like I'm out.
On a Scrabble board, which American president's last name scores the most, with that score being 22 points?
Oh my God! If my wife was still on here, she would get she lives Scrabble. I do the math and science at the house. Like she handles the words, so I have no fucking clue. So if anybody's out there that's of the 11 people that are still with us,
Thomas Jefferson. It was Jefferson.
There you go. So for OA Leather Supply, I'm sure I'll post this on my feed, and we'll put it up. We'll put it up on YouTube too.
I'm on the East Coast now.
Yeah, you're on the East Coast now. It's not even one yet.
Yeah, fuck, whatever.
How many cup holders does a Ford Aerostar have? Not as many as you would think, to be honest with you. And they don't fit like modern stuff.
Right. I mean, it fits like a 12-ounce can of soda, and that's about it, right?
You know what it is? They're like the super wide ones, so they're not deep. So you can fit like a Yeti in it, but it only is an inch of a Yeti. So like you could fit like this in it, but the cup holder comes out to fucking here.
Also just tips.
So not as
like
many.
This Yeti?
Twin!
Hey, good, nice taste in Yetis. This is my bubbly. I run a 2 Yeti system. One has bubble water in it, and one has flat water in it.
Nerds.
I think he's about to pull out a second Yeti.
Sparkling or still? No. I have the mug that my kid's best friend thrifted someplace, and because it had Chuck on it, she brought it here and gave it to me.
Oh, nice. Melissa's using a cup that I may or may not have accidentally brought home from Martha's Vineyard last year because I liked it so much.
It's a good mug. It's thick.
Look, man, everybody gets a break from like minor larceny for the one cup that they really like.
Yeah, to be fair, I did email the owner of the house and say we dropped a mug and can I pay for it? I didn't tell her we dropped it. We didn't break it. I dropped it into my bag. We dropped a mug and can I pay for it? And she said no, and it was fine, and they were lovely. But
that's one of my regrets in life is that we were in an Airbnb ages ago in Tybee Island, Georgia, and somebody that had this rental house clearly didn't know what was there, and there was a Sabatier carbon steel like 8-inch chefs that was just like in a drawer, and I was like, oh my god, this is like a gorgeous chef's knife. Like who would know if I had too big of a conscience about it and I just left it, but I was like, oh, I want this chef's knife, but I left it. So one day I will buy myself a full carbon steel Sabatier knife and not have that regret anymore. I don't know.
That mug got girth. They're girthy mugs.
They are.
They're like
heavy too.
They're mid-century beer steins
like
kind of.
That 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, they're pretty thick.
I will tell you, like a ceramic or glass beer stein's like the best thing ever.
I went out and bought.
Well, what is that?
It's 50.
16 ounces?
Yeah, it's 50 CL. So I don't know what centiliters is in. I can't do any math.
It's too late for math.
Well, 2 liters is about a gallon. So,
what's a centiliter? It'd be like a millimeter to.
It can't be a centiliter, because centiliter is a tenth of a liter, or 100th of a liter.
It just says 50 CL on it, and the Canadian next to me is bad at the metric system, so she's really not helping us out here.
I mean, it's weird.
9 U.S. fluid ounces.
Okay, so there we go.
It's not even a round number.
Well, they never are. Yeah, so it fits a 12-ounce beer with foam. That's what the whole point of them was. And then I went out on eBay and I found, the matching 7, so I had the full set of 8 because I am an OCD had to have a set.
Corter.
And they're great mugs. They have giant hands. They're great mugs.
Or
I would suggest.
Like Shane said, for people like me with small hands, it's a double hander.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's why I like it. I like big mugs.
I like big mugs, and I cannot lie.
That could be a section of your only hands.
Actually,
just holding warm mugs.
The first
holding warm mugs like you're an old person drinking coffee. My mother-in-law drinks coffee like that, and it drives me absolutely batshit. I don't know why, but it's like she is pathologically unable to just drink a cup of coffee like this. She has to hold it like this and like tuck her elbows in and like act like it's a holy grail chalice of.
I feel like I'm getting out right now, Chuck. What the fuck, dude?
Everybody has those things though. Like I have like 3 or 4 things that make me absolutely batshit insane mad for no reason, and it has nothing to do with the people doing them. Like couples who buy the same car in different colors. So when you drive past their house, it's like 2 Subaru Crosstreks that are the same car, but they're just different colors. I don't know why that makes me so, like, it irritates me. I understand it. If I had a partner and they had a Toyota Tacoma, that'd be badass because I have a Toyota Tacoma. I have nothing against it. But everyone has something that drives them nuts.
Yeah,
and for me, it's
for no particular reason.
0 reason. That's it.
No, it's not other people that do it. It's just my mother-in-law. So if you are not my mother-in-law, feel free to double fist whatever you like.
Okay. Since we're continuing this list, I also don't like when people don't have hands full of things and hit the handicap button to open a door when they don't need to.
Oh, yeah,
because that door takes so long to open when you could just push it open.
That happens at the gym all the time.
It's the worst.
And I don't get it. Like I get the part where it's like you're coming out of the gym, and I always, go and wash up like for my elbows down just because there's people touching all kinds of shit in there.
Yeah.
but like people that walking in and you walk up and you're like,
Yeah, that's the wait.
Yeah.
And the
you're
door's
sitting there and
towards you.
you're like, God damn it, just grab it and go in.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And also, no offense to any of you in the chat, because I'm sure some of you do this, and it's very sweet when I see it out, but it drives me up an absolute wall. Same side sitters, can't handle it.
Wait, what's that?
Oh, like a two-seater table?
Same side sitters. When you're like when you're in a booth,
Oh, yeah.
you're both sitting on the same side, but there's no one across from you. I can't handle it.
No.
I can't do it. And I think because it's just because the thought of me doing it with someone makes me so physically uncomfortable that's the only reason. I don't hate the people that are doing it. I feel jealous that they're able to do it. But like, it also kind of gives me like the shivers, which drives me batshit crazy. People at the airport that don't walk on those flat moving sidewalk things.
Oh, I almost missed my fucking last flight out here because of some dumb girls playing on fucking TikTok on one of those things. And I was like running down it. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And they're just like,
That's hilarious.
flight was late because there was a storm.
Yeah, I definitely sent her Cape Cod Bay in a storm, and they only got one flight out for the day.
And on that note, like to end it on a totally appropriate thing, like I gotta pee and I'm crossing my legs, so because I've had 2 beers in 2.5 hours, so I gotta let y'all go.
Big night.
I'm pretty.
Awesome talking as always. I imagine we'll do this again next week. Yeah.
Yeah. I was told that it was normal to just bring the phone in and pee while you're on stream.
We can do that too.
Stream and
show you how the bidet works. All right.
I would love a full tour of your bidet next weekend. Or next week.
We can do that.
Full tour.
All right. Cool. Bye guys. We'll catch y'all next week. See ya.